Shalom. Shalom, everybody. Let a couple people get in here. Shalom, shalom. Put a 1 in the chat if y'all can hear me good, so I can make sure. Put a 1 in the chat if y'all can hear. Shalom, shalom. All right. Okay. Yeah, no vaccination. Con. All right, bet. Everybody can see. Okay, cool. So shalom, everybody. Shalom. Like to start by giving all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, in the name of His Son, Yahweh Shai. I'm Brother Al one God from Sons of Thunder Israelites. This is Milk Mondays. Basically what we're gonna do today is talk about, well, y'all see what the title is, you know what I'm saying? Gonna be getting on this Edomite captivity of 70 AD. Gonna be giving y'all a little bit of history on that. Might as well, since, you know, it's Passover for most people. We had ours starting on Saturday. I know a lot of brothers and sisters doing this tonight. So a sharp aside to y'all. You know what I'm saying? Sisters doing this tonight. So a sharp aside. It's lucky. Make sure I can see the comments on time. But yeah, so today we're gonna get into the Edomite captivity. I got a little video I want y'all to watch again. I'm a visual learner, so I like to show y'all the videos so y'all can see exactly what Esau likes to say about, you know, our history and stuff, and the way that it correlates with the Bible, since they like to say that the Bible's not a real book, right? So that's what we're gonna do today. So we're gonna start with the video. Let me go ahead and put this up for y'all. I'm not gonna play the whole thing. I'm gonna skip through parts of it. It's a 22-minute video, but I'm gonna skip through parts, basically explaining y'all how this captivity went down. In order, right? Starting with the rise of Esau, how he even got to this point. So lesson's not going to be too long, because as you see, it's called, you know, who has blessed us, right? Reason why is because Christians have this false doctrine that all nations upon the earth will be blessed, and when it says all nations, that it's talking about everybody on the planet, right? So what we're going to prove is that all nations, by the end of this segment, we're going to prove that all nations is talking about the Israelites that are scattered into all nations, right? But in between time, we're going to prove how the other nations haven't actually blessed us, therefore they will not be blessed. You understand what I'm saying? Shalom, Brother Ma'akai. So that's what we got to understand at that point, right? That it's not going to be a whole lot of, you know, well, it's not going to be any saving other nations, really, you know what I'm saying, except for captivity. But they are under this false impression due to the church and the false teachings of the church that everybody's going to be saved all nations upon the earth, and that it's not talking about the Israelites that are scattered through all nations. So we're going to prove that all nations did have us in captivity. You know what I'm saying? That all nations did in fact not bless us, right? Therefore, they will not be blessed, at least not in the way that they want to, right? So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. There's two videos y'all can watch for this. Many people are under the false narrative, I'll say, that there was only a siege of 70 AD. Really, this thing goes from 74 AD to 73 AD. The last siege we had, the last war with the Romans we had basically before being picked up, was in 73 AD at Masada, and it was led by the sect of Sakari. So I'll probably get into that a little bit more next time when I get into the African captivity. We're going to talk about Esau first. We're going to talk about Ham next. After Ham, we're going to talk about Elam, and then we're going to get Ishmael. We're going to do those top four. Those are basically the big four that we had, you know what I'm saying? And all the other nations were involved, simultaneously within those big four. So, yeah. So, like I said, we're going to go ahead and get started with the Edomite captivity of 70 AD and basically how it began, how Israel fell, basically. You understand? Just to give y'all the history on that. Because and another reason I want to do this is to show you basically that a lot of the model that Esau is using right now to run his government, to run his military, how he takes over things, they actually modeled it off of what Alexander the Great did, right? Off of what Philip II, his father, did, and the generals after Alexander the Greek, right? So that's what they were doing. That's basically what they've modeled this whole government off of, and we're going to show and prove it to you today. You know what I mean? Through scriptures and through proof in the video that the Edomites made themselves. All right. So let me see. All right. Okay. Actually, let me make it full screen. All right.
As king. In 4 BC he perished, and Judea became a Roman province. Imperial authority in the region leaned heavily on the local elites, but they often lacked the confidence of the wider Jewish population, resulting in near perpetual strife.
So what's going on here, for those of you guys that don't know, this is how the Herodian dynasty looked, right? With Israel being under there. At some point, Herod would lose the kingdom. It would be turned over to Vespasian, and this is what it's talking about now. It's basically bringing you into that time period. As you know, if you know about the book Babylon and Timbuktu, it was General Titus and his father Vespasian who brought down basically took out Jerusalem in 70 AD, right? So that's what this is going to talk about. But right now, it's basically bringing you into the point to how Vespasian got the throne in the first place. So we're going to play up until about 3 minutes and 22 seconds, and then we're going to get to the real good stuff, just to get you out of history so nobody's confused, all right?
Throughout the early 1st century, Jewish frustration grew, and they chafed under the Roman boot. This resulted in increasingly violent actions perpetrated by sects such as the infamous Jewish Sicarii.
All right, so look, basically what you see here is Romans are taking over. This is around the time you see the Maccabees and everything, right? Antiochus, all these people. And you see the confidence leaders here. These are like the gatekeepers, same people that they use nowadays, right? The so-called boule and everything. This is who they were back then. Boule is the Greek word. They had the same name back here in this period. I will be doing a presentation on the boule at some point as well. But so these people are your Al Sharptons, your Oprah Winfrey's, your Will Smiths, Jada Pinkett Smith, all the people who that are prominent black people in the community that help sway opinion certain ways, right? Certain directions. Our people at this time were lacking confidence in those people. You understand? And we started getting frustrated. And the first first group of I'll say warriors to come up and go against the people or go against the the enemies, the Edomites, or the Sakari, who were assassins that basically came around and basically tried to revolt. You understand? And they started the revolts. They would end it in 73 AD. They would also be involved in the one of Masada when it was over too. So, but we'll get that later, like I said.
Judea was a powder keg, a tangle of class, ethnic, and religious divisions. In 66 AD, a Greek mob profaned the Caesarea synagogue, and that led to riots among the infuriated Jewish population.
All right, so what he's saying here is the a riot started to occur because the Romans were trying to get us onto basically this is the time period when they started trying to force us, you know what I mean, completely into the Hellenistic societies, but we weren't really doing it. We were revolted. And I got this history book again that's going to prove that as well. But let's go.
Meanwhile, in Jerusalem, Roman procurator Gessius Florus chose this inopportune moment to collect overdue taxes. In an unwise move, he did this by plundering 17 talents of silver and gold from the treasury of the Second Temple. Reacting to this, some young and bold Jews mocked Florus by begging for spare change in the name of the apparently poverty-stricken procurator. Infuriated, Florus executed thousands.
So what happened here is Gessius Florus was the person who Rome had in control of us. He was also the ruler of Syria. So because at the time Judea was a province of Syria, you understand, under like under the Greek and Roman rule, because the Romans of course had control over Syria at the time. They already had Edomites running the Middle East and everything, because Alexander the Greek and everything is already dead. We're going to get into this history in just a second before we get into the gist of the movie. But like I said, I want to give y'all the breakdown of what's happening before we get into all that. So Gessius Florus, he's gone broke as the leader of Syria and Judea. So he goes to the temple to try to collect, quote unquote, past due taxes, right? So he basically just raids the money from the temple, and Jews, being who we are, you know what I'm saying, we were making fun of him because he was a broke man that was in control of us, a broke white king, basically. And we were making fun of him, you know what I'm saying, asking for spare change to give to him since he was raiding money from our temple. And these are unarmed civilians, just regular old people. He has his army kill them and slaughters them. That's what you see the dead bodies on the ground for. So this would start the aftermath that would eventually become the revolt of 70 AD, or the Jewish revolts from 66 AD to 73 AD. It started because of this.
When he moved to bring in reinforcements, the Jews began to resist. Overwhelmed by the local population, the Roman soldiers retreated to the citadel, and the Great Jewish Revolt began.
All right. So that's the beginning of the quote unquote Great Jewish Revolt. All right. So we're gonna get into it now with the rise of Esau, how this started, and then we're gonna get back into the video, right? So let me all right. So let's start with Job chapter 9, verse 24, right? Let's get into the scriptures. Okay. Select. All right, but yeah, so we're gonna get into basically how Esau rose to the level he was supposed to, or like to this level to be able to do this in the first place. Many of y'all know they come from the caves. In fact, we're gonna show that. So let's just get it right. Job chapter 9, verse 24. Most High did that like that. All right, this is the book of Job, chapter 9 and 24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? Right? So we're going to start it off like that because, as we know, this is Esau. They are the hand of the wicked. You know what I'm saying? They are the hand of basically Satan on earth, right? So they basically can dish out all forms of wickedness that pertain to him, right? So that's the spirit they have. They are the people made for wickedness. You can also find this in, I think, Proverbs 16:4 says that, right? So let's get how these people came about in the first place. Before we continue, I just want to show you this right quick. Let me see. Mount Petra. Let's look into this right quick so we can see exactly where Esau is from. Because many people only know about the Caucasus Mountains, right? But y'all gotta understand, when Esau was given his land, he also chose to live in the caves, right? So this is Petra Rakmu, right? Or the settlement of Esau in Jordan, right? Where this is basically where they went to after they left Edom, right before they went to the caves. When we pushed them out of the land and kicked them out, this is where we kicked them out from. You understand what I'm saying? They lived here. As you see, they already were making columns and everything like that. Looks just like something you would see in Greek Rome, right? So, Petro Rakamu, okay? Let's get back to the word. So let's get the history of them being in the caves, how they went from there to the Caucasus, and we'll show the Caucasus in a minute. So this is Job chapter 30. We were just at Job 9. Let's go to Job chapter 30. And we'll start at 5. Well, yeah, we'll start at 1. This is Job chapter 30 and 1. It says, "But now they that are younger than I have me in derision, whose fathers I would have disdained to have set with the dogs of my flock," right? So these people, uh, Esau, they're the older brother according to the Israelites, but they're young as a nation. You understand what I'm saying? Because they weren't really here from the beginning. We can get into that later, but that's just the fact that it mattered. And they're the ambassadors of the heathen. And Job is saying he wouldn't even disdain to put them amongst his dogs, right? The dogs of his flock. So says, "Yeah, whereto might the strength of their hands profit me, in whom old age was perished," right? Because these people aren't really strong people; they're really brittle folks, right? Says, and they look old at a young age any damn way. For want of famine, they were solitary. So this is why they left, right? They went to Jordan, Petra Rockmore, because they were going through famines and everything in the land of Edom. So they had to move up. They found land over there in Petra Rockmore. That's where they stayed. People like Amalek started getting on our nerves, making it hard for us and stuff. We eventually blew them out the land and we moved them to the Caucasus Mountains, right? So for want of famine, they were solitary, fleeing into the wilderness in the former time, desolate and waste. So that's what happened, right? We pushed them out the land. They fled into the wilderness, desolate and waste. That wilderness would be the Caucasus Mountains, right? Who cut up mallows by the bushes and juniper roots for their meat. So they ate basically, shrubs and stuff like that. That's all they could eat at the time. Um, wasn't like they were real big hunter gatherers like you think. They weren't like in the wilderness where they were at. They weren't really subject to much meat because of the weather conditions and everything like that. And some of the animals that you would have to chase that would be actual meat would be unclean animals, and they would be you know just difficult to catch. It would be like mountain lions and stuff like that. So not really stuff that's easy to eat. You understand me? But so they had to basically settle for mallows, bushes, and juniper roots, like bitter herbs and stuff like that, right? They were driven forth from among men, and they cried after them as a thief. So we drove them forth from among men up to the Caucasus Mountains, right? Up to the caves. They to dwell in the cliffs of the valleys, in caves of the earth, and in rocks, right? Why did we drive them to caves? Because it was something they were already used to. Salakia. I didn't realize y'all couldn't see this match. Hold up. So, Salakia. So look. So they were sent to dwell in the cliffs of the rocks and in caves of the earth, right? Among the bushes they brayed, under the nettles they were gathered together. They were the children of fools, yeah, children of base men. They were viler than the earth. We know that there's no man viler than Esau, right? So this is the fact of the matter. They started in the mountains of Petra and would eventually go from there to the Caucasus Mountains, right? Because we would push them to those lands. It wasn't somewhere that they just chose to go to. You understand? They were fleeing into the wilderness, as the scriptures say. They were the children of fools and children of base men. So these weren't people that were very intelligent. As you've probably heard from stories from different Blackamoors and everything like that, when they did come to Europe and we were running the land, we had to teach them how to do certain things. Them as the Khazars and all those people, they didn't take showers. Those were literally barbarian nations. You can go and look them up. They will tell you this to them like themselves. You understand what I'm saying? That these were barbarian nations, barbarian tribes. So they didn't really take showers. You know, they were vile people, stank, didn't speak eloquent languages or anything like that. So this is all stuff that we would have to teach them, right? It says, verse 9, and now I am their song and I am their byword. So this is basically him saying, like, now we're like now these people are running us, right? Because at this time they had already taken over. So now they're in control. You understand what I'm saying? We're their byword. They abhor me and they flee far from me and spare not to spit in my face. So people say we should not abhor an Edomite, but the fact of the matter is, you know, that's what the deal is. We're abhorring the Edomites because uh, they abhor us, as the scripture is showing you, right? Let's look at it, right? We're at verse 10. They abhor me and they flee far from me and spare not to spit in my face, right? Because he had loosed my cord and afflicted me, they have also let loose the bridle before me. So this is what Esau does, man. And did part of the ways that he did it was when they were able to siege us in Jerusalem in 70 AD, right? So what else I want to get? Oh yeah, let's go ahead and get how they were able to siege 70 AD, right? Because as we see here in Job 30, we're able to kick them to the mountains. We have a period of going through captivities and you know, trying to be righteous for a little while, but going off. We were going to captivities. The kingdom was split, and that's when Esau would start making his way back down. Some point, Alexander the Greek would come around the I want to say like 330s BC. He would start to rise to power, and that would be it. You know what I'm saying? And this is how this happened. Let's go to Malachi chapter 1. This is Malachi chapter 1. We'll start at verse 1. It says, the burden of the word of Yahweh to Israel by Malachi said, I have loved you, said Yahweh. Yet ye say, wherein hast thou loved us? Right? The reason we say that is because of the type of conditions we're in. People that fall away from the Most High, that are typically Black, Hispanic, and Native American, only do it because they feel like the Most High is not really doing much for us. So this would be a question they would ask per se, right? Wherein has the Most High loved us? We went through slavery. He let the white man kill us on TV. He ain't letting Black Lives Matter prosper. You know what I'm saying? This is what the niggas in the world would say, right? And then we would say things like this. Was not Esau Jacob's brother, said the Lord, yet I have loved Jacob and I hated Esau, right? So he's saying, even though Esau was your brother, Esau is doing what he want to do right now. I loved you, Jacob, and I hate Esau, right? And I laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness. Hence, Petra right? You saw that. It's a cave, so it's there for the dragons of the wilderness, right? The Caucasus Mountains, literally, there for the dragons of the wilderness. We'll show that in just a second. And it says, whereas Edom said, so this is what they said when they were in the Caucasus Mountains, right? We are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, Yahweh, right? So they got a chance to rebuild the desolate places. What places did they choose were desolate? Well, they were already in the Caucasus Mountains, which we know is in Europe. So they would just move to other places and disperse throughout Europe. Esau had, I think himself, he split himself into like 12 to 14 tribes between themselves. I can't remember all their names, but if I can find them, I will look them up for you. Hold on. But anyway, so he would come and disperse throughout Europe and cause himself to rule these lands, right? He would take over the lands slowly but surely and become the rulers of such lands, right? The 10 tribes he would split into would be the Alemanni, which became the Germans, the Burgundians, which became the Swiss, the Franks, which were the French, the Lombards, which were the Italians, the fake Saxons, well, it says the Saxons, right? Not Anglo-Saxons, but Saxons, right? Which were the English people, the Suevi, which were the Portuguese, the Visigoths, which were the Spanish, the Herulu, which became extinct, the Ostrogoths, which became extinct, and the Vandals, which became extinct. So these were the tribes that Esau split into after he left the Caucasus Mountains. And so here we go. It says that they would build desolate places, and they shall build, but I will throw down. This is what Yahweh said, right? So he's going to let them build, but eventually he's going to throw down their kingdom and give it to us, because Esau is the end of the kingdom and Jacob is the beginning of the next one that followed, right? So they shall call them the border of wickedness, which is what they are, right? We know that they're the border of wickedness. There's no nation more wicked, nor more vile than Esau, which is why the Most High made them the ambassador of the heathen in Obadiah, which we'll get to later, right? And the people against him who Yahweh hath indignation forever, right? The indignation is like a righteous hatred, so the Most High is forever going to hate them, right? So let's get Caucasus Mountains. Oops. Just so y'all can see what that looks like. All right. Caucasus Mountains. So here we go. All right. Look at this. So you see they still have the little cubby holes and everything like that. So you can see exactly where Esau lived. Hold on, bro. What's going on with this? This is not what I wanted. What are they doing? Salakia, y'all. I don't know what I just clicked on. I'm trying to damn see the picture, but it's not popping up. Anyway, but y'all can see this. I'll zoom in. So basically, this picture right here is the cubby holes and everything that they would move into, that they would live in. I'm assuming the leaders would live in the bigger cubby holes, and the regular people would just live in these tiny little houses looking thing. So yeah, here they would be though, sleeping in the same place that they defecate, that they use the bathroom. You know what I'm saying? Eating in the same places as well. This is where they would develop that stench and that odor, where where when they get wet, it's because they were stuck in these caves, not getting too much oxygen. So I guess they developed a hereditary stench, right? Proof that these are the people that lived in these lands, you know what I mean? Esau is Caucasian, right? So there we go. But that's just some proof there, right? To show you what the Caucasus Mountains look like. Hold on a second, y'all. So lucky. Yeah, so this is basically where they would go to rebuild their land, rebuild their kingdom. They would go to Europe, right? And the first person in this kingdom to get sort of hey, the water Rick for the donation. But the first person that's in this kingdom that would get to basically spread the land and make the name of Esau great in the earth would be Alexander the Greek, right? Who they called the Great, because he was basically their first great warrior, right? The first person to span the nation of Esau and make it like a world kingdom, basically, right? He would be the beginning of what we now know as the United States, the beginning of Britain, Rome, Italy, all the white nations that have become something today would all be because of this man, and they would all be connected to lands that he took over during his time, his 12 short years on the earth, right? ironically, right? The Most High set the bounds of the people according to the number of Israel, and the man only got 12 years to reign on the earth. He's the king of the Edomites, and only gets 12 years to live on the earth, and there's 12 tribes of Israel. Can't say that's not like, coincidental. But let's get the book of Maccabees. Hold on a second. Started first book of Maccabees, chapter 1. So look. We're going to get into Alexander only because you kind of got to know about him and exactly what he did in his kingdom so that you could understand why our kingdom was taken down in 70 AD. Because it's a domino effect of events, basically, right? So let's go ahead and get that. We're going to break it down. Don't worry. All right, so this is First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 1. It says, and it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Shittim, had smitten Darius, the king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece. Now, I want you guys to keep in mind here that we had already come into captivity under Alexander the Greek as soon as he killed Darius, because Darius had already had captivity. Well, he had already had control over, Israel, due to Cyrus, right? As we know, Cyrus was put in charge of making us construct the temple, right, by the Most High. So we were already in control, right? We already didn't have our own nation at this point. We're already in captivity from the time of Cyrus through Darius through now Alexander the Greek, son of Philip, right? So this is how it happened. And we're going to get that information in a minute to prove it, to go a little bit deeper and dive deeper into it, through a history book. So it says he comes from Chittim, and had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that had reigned in his stead, the first over Greece, and made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth. Reason why it says this is because his kingdom spanned far beyond, any other kingdom that America had that the Edomites, had up until this point, right? Verse 3, and went through to the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him. So he just took all these spoils of the nations. He would take their spoils, take their wife, take their children, basically bring them into his own kingdom, and they would call him the king. That's how it was for him. So the earth was quiet before him because everybody would just bow down when he came through, kind of like they were doing for Darius before, because his army was so big. But now it wasn't Darius they were afraid of, because Darius didn't really get off his horse and kill anybody. If you go into the history of Darius, he wasn't even really a king. He was brought up through conspiracy. He's not really a warrior. You know what I'm saying? But Alexander the Greek could fight. So when he was out there on the battlefield, he's actually fighting people, killing people and everything. And, the earth became quiet before him. So whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up, right? So this is what it is. So he became prideful and everything like that, right? He got exalted by his people. They started giving him nicknames like Alexander the Great, right? And he gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him. So all these nations and kings, like I told you, the rulers of Syria and everything, and Babylon would all become, and the Persians and Medes, they would all become tributaries to Alexander and his kingdom. And eventually they wouldn't get to rule at all, because he would put his generals over them once they die. Once he would die, his generals would basically take control of those lands. So those tributaries wouldn't really be so much tributaries anymore, would be but like captains and generals to the Diadochi, right? Or the generals of Alexander the Greek. So how far do I want to go on this? I guess I'll keep going for a little bit. Yeah. All right. So verse 5, and after these things he fell sick and perceived that he should die, right? He only lived 12 years. We're going to get into that. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet still alive. So this is what he did with his generals. I believe it's Seleucus, Ptolemy, Antigonus, Lysimachus, and Cassander, were the main ones, and all the other ones were just people that broke off from there. So, yeah, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died. That's it, right? We got 1 year for each tribe of Israel. And his servants bear rule, every one in his place, right? And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So this is what they did. They would go and put crowns upon themselves. They would take over the lands where he had tributaries already and basically assume the position of those people. We're going to get into that as well. How they would basically this is where they got like copying what the other nations do and implanting themselves there to make it seem like they've been there the whole time. This is why you've got right-looking people that are caliphs and rulers in the so-called Middle East, right? Because this is around the time period where these Roman generals, Macedonian generals, were put into these positions by themselves and assumed a position. Like Ptolemy, for example, he was ruler of Egypt. They called him Pharaoh. He put on the whole gear and everything, right? Was walking around looking like a white Shaka Amos or something. So that's basically how the people look. That's the type of things they would do. The rulers that were ruling the Persians and Medes, I'm sure they would put on I think it was Antigonus or Seleucus. His people, yeah, it was Seleucus. Seleucus's kids would walk around with turbans on and stuff like that. Like they actually from the Middle East. You know what I'm saying? Like these dudes in Turkey do. You understand? That's Seleucus's people that's living there right now. So these are things that you got to understand as well. This is the time period when they would start to basically assume those lands and take them over and assume the positions of those people that were ruling the lands, right? Take their culture and everything, kind of like they did us with the Jewish people. It wasn't just us they did it to, they did it to all the nations that they ever ruled. So didn't mean to do that. So now we're gonna go to Psalm 37 and 35, just to get some more meat on that. This shit gonna go away. Psalm 37 and 35. Oops. So look. It says, I have seen the wicked in great power and spreading himself like a green bay tree. Yet he passed away, and lo, he was not. Yeah, I sought him, but he could not be found. So this is what happened, right? Alexander the Greek freak was just spreading through the land, man, like a green bay tree. He just was spreading quick. You know what I'm saying? Green bay trees, like, look, they grow very fast. They got long limbs that can spread and grow real quick. Like if you got a green bay tree by your house or whatever, it could grow into your house, all that type of stuff, right? So they just spread. They don't stop. That's what he was doing. It was looking like he was going to spread his kingdom so far, was never going to stop spreading until he just died, right? And wasn't no more to be found in him. Wasn't nothing left. So he breaks his kingdom up. I don't even want to read the rest of that, but I guess I will. So Alexander now has spread his kingdom up, and I'm actually going to read this right quick before I continue this part. I'm going to read y'all this from this history book. It's the same history book I brought out that one time in that other video that y'all liked. So let me get the meat off the bone that I didn't get in that book. I mean, in that lesson the last time. Go back to one. All right. So let me show y'all this right quick. This is Worlds Apart. That book I told y'all about before, right? Find it online. Costs like $50 or something. But turn to page 200. It gives you the whole breakdown. And this book goes in chronological order from like, let me see when it starts. Salakia, y'all. So it starts with what the historians call the first humans, right? And beliefs, and goes all the way back to 3500 BCE and goes in chronological order to 1300 BCE, right? So right to the Renaissance period. So this was a perfect book and a perfect class that I took when I was in college, because it was right when I was coming into the truth, learning the history of this stuff, and uh, everything basically was just coming together with this book, because Esau didn't know nothing that he was teaching me, but I knew everything he was saying could be validated with the Bible, especially through the Apocrypha. So anyway, this is the conquest of Alexander the Greek, right? It says Alexander came from a frontier state of Macedonia to the north of Greece and commanded a highly mobile force armed with military technologies that had developed during the incessant warfare among the Greek city-states. So the main reason I'm reading all this is to show the comparisons of how Esau government and everything runs and operates today versus how the model that they use comes from Alexander the Greek and the things he was doing back then, right? It's literally the same stuff. We're going to prove it. And then after this, we're going to get back into the video so I can show y'all how they did it, right? So, yeah. Alexander's predecessors, especially his father Philip II, had Macedonia had become a large ethnic and territorial state. Philip had unified Macedonia, then gone on to conquer neighboring states. So this is why places like Syria and all them type of places were already in effect, because Philip had started to take those type of places over, but he would die. The Persians and Medes would already have fallen to his father, and well, to an extent, he would finish the job by taking care of Darius, and then that's when he would spread the rest of the land past Babylon all the way to like Punjab, India. Okay, so he also had Elam in control, like basically to a T. Since they were the ones that had us in control, he just basically took over their kingdom and expanded a little bit further. So continuing on, it says importantly, Macedonia boasted gold mines that could finance new military technology and discipline full-time army. Right. So this is where Esau got the ideas of using money to finance his governments, because Alexander the Greek was the first person to do this. There's no Edomite in history that was thinking of using money to finance their armies and everything. At least not to the point of Alexander the Greek. Right. The water Nisham for your donation, right? I on the bar. All praises. So yeah, but Alexander was the first person basically in Edomite history to start using money, gold to fund his campaigns, and it would work. He would be successful doing this, which is why the rest of the Edomites since then have also taken this model, right? That's why money rules the world now. It's all because of good old Alexander, right? The current Edomites have taken his model and gone a little overboard with it. So now they use money for everything. He was using money to fund his society and to basically push his ideals on people and to bribe other people in the society. That's what Esau started doing now. You know what I mean? They bribe our gatekeepers, our boule members, and everything like that to push certain uh, Hellenistic cultures and ways of thinking on us, philosophies and stuff like that. And it's the same thing. It's no different back then. There's no new thing under the sun. This is where they got it from. That's why I'm reading it to you. So it says the cost of heavily armored infantry and closely arrayed phalanxes, which were the armed soldiers, right? Allied with large-scale shot cavalry formations, were supported not just from the mine substances or a substantial income, but also from the enormous profit of slave trade. So this is also where they got the idea of using the slave trade to profit and help fund those type of campaigns, right? Because they had their own people in slavery at this time. People who couldn't pay debts and stuff like that were being hardcore bondage and slavery to their own people. This is how Esau did. So don't take it as a big thing where, oh, well, Esau made all of us slaves because everybody has to work now and all this type of stuff. Well, they did the same thing to their people back then. There's no new thing under the sun. This is something they've been doing for centuries. As long as the elites can have slaves, they don't care who the slaves are. It could be slaves from other nations or slaves that are their own nation, right? As long as there's an elite and a lower class, that's all they care about, even if it's their own people. So, let's see. It says by the early 330s BCE, Philip had crushed the Greek city-states to the south, meaning they were in a civil war. For those of y'all that don't know, Philip and Alexander are Macedonians. The people they were going against were the Athenians, the people of Greece, right? So many of these people were the the children of Japhet, who didn't want to come under Macedonian law. A lot of them were pagan. They had their own gods and stuff like that. So it just didn't make sense for them to just conform under Macedonian rule until after their civil wars would be lost and Macedonia would take over. And that's how you got the full Greek-Roman society that you have now. It's only because Macedonia won, right? Things probably would have been a little bit different if the Romans had came out on top, but they weren't meant to because Esau's main faction was actually on the Macedonian side. Most of the Edomites were Macedonian at that time. Greece was still mainly Japhet at this time, right? So it says, yeah, after Philip's assassination, his son Alexander used this new military machine in a series of daring attacks on the apparently invincible power of the Persian Empire and his king Darius III, which is why Maccabees started with telling you that Alexander came on the scene by destroying, Darius and basically taking over his empire and being able to expand it, because that was his first big victory, right? Skipping a little bit, it says Alexander's conquest exposed Syria, Palestine, Egypt, and Mesopotamia, which was considered basically the whole so-called Middle East from Jerusalem to the Persian Medo Empire, right at the tip of it, past Babylon, right, was considered Mesopotamia. To the commodities of the Mediterranean, to money-based economies. So Alexander's conquest exposed Syria, Palestine, Egypt, and Mesopotamia to money-based economies. This is why all the economies of the world are now money-based, right? It's not a trade and barter system anymore. This is because Esau is the one that started this, right? Which Edomite was it? The greatest of them all, right? Alexander. So, like I said, everything that they take now, everything that they do now, they're only modeling it off of what he did, and they're making it better. They're tweaking it. They have more advanced tools they can use, right? More advanced ideas they can use in the society that we're in now. But this is where it started, right? Hellenization and Alexander the Greek. So he exposes everybody to money-based economies now. It says that both Philip and Alexander issued gold coins to pay for their invasions. So this is where the whole gold coin thing came about, right? Let's issue gold coins, start printing our face on the gold coins, and we're gonna start doing this. And even we started doing it. Our people started printing gold coins and stuff like that. Basically because we were coming under Hellenization. Everybody was doing it, so we started doing it too. It's gonna explain that to you though. So Alexander founded dozens of new cities named after himself, right? They called the lands after themselves. This is where it started. Alexander the Greek, right? It started with him. Everything that they do now, they got from his model, right? This is why all your streets and stuff have Edomite names on them and everything. It's talked about in the scriptures because it was something that their greatest Edomite did, right? The most famous of which was Alexandria in Egypt, right? Skipping on. Alexander died in Babylon at the age of 32, struck down by overconsumption of alcohol and other excesses, right? Ironically, he died at 32. Our Savior Yahushua died at 33. This is like, how y'all getting it? Yeah, he lived 12 years, dies 32. You're like, come on, guys. So look, this is the ruler of the Edomites, right? This is basically their Yahushua because they didn't have a kingdom, they didn't have a society that they could look to and push on everybody else until this man came on the scene and did what he did, right? This is the savior of the Edomites, and his death and his story was basically the same as our savior's. The difference is ours gets to come back. He's going to be a slave, right? Alexander's going to be a slave. Yahushua is going to be the king. That's how it goes, right? One shall be stronger than the other, and Esau is going to be the end of the world, and Jacob shall be the beginning of the one that followeth, right? This is how the end of the world started. 330s BC with Alexander the Greek, right? So Alexander died at the age of 32, struck down by overconsumption of alcohol and other excesses that matched his larger-than-life personality. It would they say other unmatched things or excesses that reflected his larger-than-life personality. They're talking about homosexual things. I'm sure he probably died from stuff like syphilis or something like that. No different than what's his name? Cesare Borgia, right? I wouldn't disagree with that. I even heard some stories that he died from a disease he got from his horse from having sex with it. right? This is all things that we've heard about Alexander the Greek. They don't know the exact way he died, but it has something to do with some nasty, freaky stuff like that, right? So, yeah, that's how he died. He gave his culture to the Macedonian warriors. His death in 323 BC brought on the collapse of the regime and that he had personally held together, and the conquered lands fragmented into territories over which his generals squabbled for control. As I told you, the generals were Seleucus, Ptolemy, Antigonus, Lysimachus, and Cassander. Those were the main ones, right? So, right quick, I'll show you all this map, and then we'll get back into the good old video. Let's look at this one. So this is just a little map to show you all the land that he took over, right? So this is Ptolemy here in Egypt. This is how much of Egypt that he had. Cassander's over here in like Italy. Greece is down here. As you see, Greece still wasn't considered his land because the Greeks didn't really mess with him like that. But they conformed anyway. So technically, Cassander did have control of this, right? They became a viceroy state to him. Lysimachus had this land over here, still part of Europe, going into the quote unquote Middle East, where Turkey. This is where the Caucasus Mountains and everything like that are. This is where they first got their land from. Lysimachus was granted this. Seleucus got the rest of it through Turkey, Syria, Jordan. You know what I'm saying? Ptolemy was given Israel because it's so close to Egypt. Seleucus got all this land, right? The biggest part of the empire. And Antigonus should be around here somewhere too. They forgot to put him on here. But Antigonus is on here as well. So this was, the map of Esau's kingdom. This is what he got. This was his blessing, right? This was the beginning of the end. So let's get back to the video. We're going to fast forward to 5. Let me show y'all looking at the video. Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna get back to the video now that we've seen the rise of Esau, how Alexander the Greek freak came on the scene with his generals and everything, right? We're gonna skip to 5 minutes, and it's gonna explain. I'm just gonna let them explain a little bit, and I'll break down things I need to stop, and we'll skip some more. All right. So let's get it.
To the west, Roman Emperor Nero received word of the revolt in Judea whilst on a concert tour of Greece, requiring a competent general to take charge and crush the insurrection. Nero appointed a veteran of the British campaign, Titus Flavius Vespasianus, otherwise known as Vespasian, to command the army of Judea. Vespasian immediately...
Alright, so look. There's two Vespasians, right? There's the Vespasian, who became the emperor, and he was the Roman general that they just told you about. And the one that would become the emperor. His son Titus, who would be known as Titus, would be the general that would help bring us down and everything like that. So the picture they showed you was of Titus, however, but he's not the one that headed the campaign. That was his father, Vespasian. So the Edomite kind of messed up there, but just wanted to clarify that. All right.
Set off for Judea, taking the overland route over the Hellespont and through the Great Cilician Gates. After reaching the city of Antioch, 2 legions and their associated auxiliary units joined him. Vespasian marched south to Ptolemais, while his son Titus was sent to Alexandria in order to take command of another legion and march it north to join the main.
So what they were trying to do was basically corner us, right? Nero, who was the Greek emperor at the time, that was his whole idea, to basically put us in a situation where we're cornered, and he was thinking that we would be unprepared, wouldn't know how to stop something like that. So just to give you a quote on the type of person Nero was, he has a quote that's famous. Fun fact about Nero. Says when Roman Emperor Nero's wife died, he found a boy looking like her, removed his testicles, Salakia, and had him appear in public as his wife. So this is the vile Greek cultures, the type of societal, things that they would do that came with Hellenization, right? This is why the earth is so vile. I wouldn't be surprised if this is why Ishmael is such a wild bear. Is such a wild man, such a wild boy, right? Because he's been in close contact and close proximity to Esau since he came from the Caucasus Mountains. You understand what I'm saying? Look, the man, this guy who ordered the attack on us, right, by Vespasian and Titus, his wife was killed or died, and he found a boy, right? I've spoken to y'all about pederasty and everything like that before. He finds a boy and removes his testicles, right? And has him appear in public as his wife. Probably puts a wig on him and all that type of stuff and makes him walk around like a woman. This is the type of culture and society that these, Caucasian Edomites, dibble and dabble in. This is the type of stuff that they do. This was normal in their culture. You understand? This is why they're the vilest people on the earth. So, continuing on.
An army. Meanwhile, reinforcements also arrived from the various local allies and clients. In total, the empire mustered around 60,000 troops to crush the revolt.
So I want y'all to be mindful here. They have 60,000 troops at this point, right? To crush our revolts, because we're still revolting from the 66 AD thing when Gessius Florus tried to collect the taxes and killed a bunch of us. We're still revolting from this time period. The revolts from city to city are still going on. So both the Vespasians, father and son, gathered 60,000 Roman Greek soldiers. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure other foreigners from the Persian and Media Empire to try to take us down and surprise us, so to speak, because they think that we're not ready for it. But they're going to find out otherwise. All right?
No prisoners were taken, and entire opposition villages were reduced to ash. This proved to be effective, as the 10,000-strong Jewish field army quickly scattered in all directions, seeking haven in the fortified strongpoints.
See? That's us going to the enemy and then fleeing before them 7 ways, right? That's a curse of Deuteronomy. That's the type of things that we did. It's going to happen multiple times within this conquest of 70 AD. We're going to go towards the fight and then end up fleeing the other way because things just didn't go our way. The Most High wasn't really messing with us, right? It's amazing that he allowed us to stand against him as long as we did, if you want to be honest, because this jump, like I said, started in about 64 BC. The riots really started in 66 AD, Salakia. And then it would go on to 73 AD, because 70 AD is just when the main temple fell, but Masada was still around. And we still have brothers, fighting for Masada in 73 AD, or up until 73 AD. So we held on for a little while with little weapons, you know what I'm saying, and stuff that wasn't as advanced as what Esau had at the time, which is basically the situation we're in now. They have all these guns and all these weapons that we don't have, and we're going to have faith that the Most High is going to, carry us through it.
In the subsequent campaign into Galilee during 67 AD, Vespasian systematically moved through the region, brutalizing any defiant settlement and often allowing his rapacious legionaries free rein to loot, burn, murder, and pillage as they pleased.
You see? So a lot of y'all get mad when we bring out the scriptures saying that, we're going to be bashing their children's heads against the stones. It's going to make us happy. And, y'all get mad when we basically we imagine the type of things we're going to do to the heathen in the kingdom. Y'all get mad because y'all hear how ruthless we seem that we're going to be, right? But listen to what the man just said they did. Vespasian and Titus gave their man free rein to rape, rob, murder, and pillage the villages of the Israelites as they please. Y'all understand that? So why would you think, if the Most High is a righteous God, right, then why wouldn't he not allow us to do the same thing in our kingdom? You feel? Just think about it.
Critical settlements defending the region were captured. Jotapata fell to Vespasian first, followed by Joppa, Tiberias, Tarichaea, and Gamala, before his army was finally billeted in its winter quarters, leaving a subdued region in its wake.
So at this point, they're just going from village to village, just taking everything down.
The fall of Galilee to Vespasian's legionaries prompted more internal strife among the Jewish factions. As the campaigning season of 68 AD began, Vespasian was in no hurry to intervene, stating that.
So look at this, right? Listen to what he says, because this is something. This is the way that you guys know. You guys that know a lot of the politics and how that stuff works here in America. This is how a lot of their politicians think, especially when it comes to the Israelites, because of this one curse that y'all should know about as soon as you hear what he's saying.
That since our enemies are busy dying by their own hands, the best course of action would be to stay as spectators instead of taking on fanatics who welcome death and are already busy murdering each other.
You understand? So, as it shows you at the bottom of the screen, it's gone now, but in 68 AD, there were revolts, like Jewish civil wars during this revolt. So we're in war with the Romans. We got General Titus and Vespasian up here by Samaria trying to take us down, working their way down, right? And we're in Jerusalem fighting amongst ourselves. We got the Jew zealots, right? And then we got the Sicarii assassins, and they're fighting each other over, I guess who's going to take what land and stuff like that, who's going to protect what land, which plan they should use to go against Titus and Vespasian. Little petty crap, right? But Deuteronomy 28 and 54 is in full effect, even in 70 AD during the freaking war, right? Right in the middle of everything, we're fighting each other while they're on their way down to kick our behinds. So just keep that in mind, man. It's the same thing, right? This is why we say, at least us at SOT, we would like to unify Israel. We want to get Israel unified and put on one accord so that this doesn't happen to us when the time comes for us to be fighting these Edomites, right? We have to be on one accord. That's why I'm teaching the history so that we can know where we was at so we don't make the mistakes again. This was a mistake. In the middle of us fighting, and this ain't going to be the first time it happened. It's going to happen once they get to the temple too. So they're going to be right next to us, and we're still going to be fighting each other because of Deuteronomy 28:54. So that's how serious that curse is, man. Keep that in mind.
Content to leave Jerusalem to its internal squabbling, the Roman general marched across the mountainous province of Perea and Judea proper, taking almost every settlement of note one by one, laying waste to the countryside and slaughtering tens of thousands of civilians. The campaigning season of 69 AD began similarly. Dispatching his subordinates to the peripheral regions, Vespasian marched on Jerusalem itself. He established garrisons in the towns that anchored his supply lines to the coast, while the Roman horsemen rode down and destroyed any remaining hostile units in the.
So look, this is classic Esau, right? He takes part of your supply routes, you know what I mean? He takes over your cities on the way to the big city so that he could gain supplies for his own soldiers and set up camps in those different cities. So he set up camp in Joppa, he set up camp in Lydia, he set up camp in Bethlehem, and now he's in Jerusalem right here, right? So he's going to set up camps in all these areas, and once he leaves and the real fight starts, because this is still 68 and 79 AD. This ain't 70 AD yet. This is the build up to 70 AD. This is what they did to make sure we fell. All the different places they had to take down in order to do it. It wasn't just like they marched to 70, or they wasn't just like they marched to Jerusalem and took us down. They went through years of trying to take us down because we were fortified fighters at the time. We weren't nobody that was a pushover where you could just do whatever you want to us. We wasn't gonna let that happen. This is our land here, right? So we were still very much, able to defend ourselves, even with limited weapons and less advanced weaponry than they had. You know what I'm saying? They still had to do all this stuff in the span of like 6 years in order to take us down. So,
vicinity of Jerusalem. It seemed like only a miracle could save the rebels from Vespasian's wrath. They would get one very soon. Discontent with Emperor Nero's infamous.
We're gonna skip this part. This is the fall of Nero, and they had like, I forget what they call it, the rise of the four emperors or something like this. But basically, Nero is gonna fall. They're gonna have 3 other emperors that come and take his place. They're all gonna fall real quick. And in the midst of the chaos, Vespasian is gonna become the emperor in the middle of the war. So he's gonna move back to Italy. Excuse me. And Titus, his son, is going to be sent back to Jerusalem to finish everything off. And when that happens, it's going to be 70 AD. So this is when the actual war is going to start. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit to about right here. All right.
With the empire suddenly in the process of eating itself alive, the campaign into Judea came to a halt as Vespasian paused to consider his options. Finally, on July 1st, 69 AD, Vespasian was proclaimed Caesar by the prefect of Egypt in the presence of his legions. The Flavian faction, Vespasian, his family and supporters, then held a war council where their strategy was decided. Vespasian would establish his headquarters in Egypt, while Titus, assisted by Tiberius Alexander, would conclude the campaign of subduing the Jews.
So now you're about to see what they did to try to conclude the campaign to subdue the Jews. We know that we didn't have hundreds of thousands of warriors at this time. Half of Israel is already in captivity, for those of you guys that don't know, right? Many of us are still scattered already because we returned from Babylon. Many of us are in these Persian and Mede countries and city-states from when Darius and Cyrus were controlling us. So not everybody is in Jerusalem. You understand what I'm saying? Some of our people are in captivity fighting against Jerusalem because they've been already put on enemy lines due to them being in the army of Darius as slaves and then just being taken over and conquered by Alexander the Great once he took over Darius's army. So keep that in mind too. We're going to put up the type of fight that we're going to put up, and it's not even going to be all of us that's there to fight. And you're about to see all the type of soldiers in the different legions that they have on hand to try to combat us. Little old Israel, right? Let's go.
Titus began the Jerusalem campaign in spring of 70 AD, departing Alexandria and marching up the Mediterranean coast towards Caesarea. The army assembled there was even larger than that commanded by Vespasian in the previous.
So he brings a bigger army than the one that's commanded by his daddy, right? His daddy had, I think, 50,000 soldiers or something like that, maybe. So let's see how many he got.
Years. At its core were 4 Roman legions: Legio 15 Apollinaris.
So Legio 15 Apollinaris, these are people, the Apollonians. These are the Macedonians, Legio 5, Macedonica.
Legio 5, Macedonica. Yeah, Legio 10, Fretensis, and
so Fretensis, I think those are foreign regiments, and I think these people as well.
Legio 12, Fulminata. In addition, 20 cohorts of auxiliary.
Oh, no, I'm lying. So those are all the different Roman regiments, right? So these are the people that would be in the different ruling arms and in different ruling lands of like Cassander, Seleucus, Antigonus, Ptolemy. Anybody who's in the region that could fight, that could send their troops, these are the people in the infantry that they had. So all of their soldiers are different. They have different color armor on. They got different weapons, different shields, because they don't all fight the same. Because like I told you, what Alexander the Greek's generals did, they didn't teach anybody their own fighting style or anything like that, except for the Greeks and Macedonians. Everybody else, they adopted the fighting style of this nation, the war methods of these nations that they took over, and basically just assumed the position of ruler and left everything the way it was. You understand what I'm saying? Or assumed whatever rules and regulations that the main leadership would have for them to dispute throughout their country. So this is how that went. And now he's about to explain to you the foreigners as well that they had with them, just to give you a broad depiction of the amount of soldiers that they had that were coming against Jerusalem. And then you're going to see how long this war actually lasted, which shows you that in hand-to-hand combat, Esau can't touch us, man. Because this ain't even all our soldiers. You know what I'm saying? And it still took them as long as it did for them to be able to take down our city. So.
Infantry, 8 alay of cavalry, and many thousands of native troops were present, commanded by the Roman client kings in the region. This was a massive force, totaling around 70,000 troops.
So they have about 20 more thousand troops than they did the first time. right? They had 2 generals the first time. Now it's just Titus by himself with his little homeboy Alexander, right? Not Alexander the Greek, but it's a different Alexander. So now he got 20,000 more soldiers, and he's only going to be taking down the dang capital. You understand what I'm saying? They didn't take down every single city basically that surrounds Jerusalem from Samaria on down, but they need 20,000 more soldiers to be able to just take down Jerusalem as a city. Keep that in mind.
Using the network of garrison strongpoints his father had established, Titus marched straight at the city of Jerusalem by the main road, whilst sending some other legions on alternative routes to alleviate supply problems. Upon nearing the city, Titus rode ahead with 600 hand-picked horsemen to perform reconnaissance on the city.
So look, as you see, the sect of the Sicarii were the ones who basically came out on top of the Jewish revolt in the war. So it was most of their soldiers fighting. The Zealots would then continue on to help them out. It would get on one accord to an extent to be able to help them before they moved to Masada. But this is how it happened, right? The Sicarii basically led the revolt from this time on. So yeah, as you see, hold on, let me rewind about 10 seconds so that y'all can see this. What he's going to do, what Titus does, right? He moves his legions down. He split them into 3 parts. And he already has all these different strongholds that are our cities, right? Bethlehem, Samaria, Cassandra, Joppa, Timenia. So then he's going to take Cyprus. He's going to take Cyprus and control it and use it as a stronghold because it's the strongest city for us that we're not occupying because they already have control of Bethlehem. So this is the nearest place we could go get supplies from. If we need food, if we need weapons, whatever it is, only place we could go to is Cyprus. And what he did was he sent a regiment down there to take control of Cyprus. So now we're running low on fumes. You feel what I'm saying? We don't have much reinforcements. We don't have anybody that we can call as reinforcements because they're all held up in Cyprus, and all our food, all our resources and everything that we would need for the war is also held up in Cyprus once we finish what we have here in Jerusalem. So they're going to take this over and use the supplies themselves, which also goes into the curse of Deuteronomy 28 that we're going to bring out later on. So also keep that in mind.
Upon nearing the city, Titus rode ahead with 600 hand-picked horsemen to perform reconnaissance on the city. However, as this force approached the Stephanus Tower, a large force of Jews charged out of the city and cut down many of Titus's men.
So this is the defense strategy that we had basically. All the yellow blocks is Israelites in the way that we're defending the wall. So you see, we have a couple walls into the city. Here's the inside of the city. Here's the temple, right? So this is the outside fortress, right? There's the western gate here. The new city that was just built after Herod had us in control. Herod's palace that he had built is right here. You understand what I'm saying? And there's just walls all throughout the city that we built. We built these walls because we knew at some point this siege was going to happen. So these walls were all built between 66 AD and 70 AD. Okay, so now we're defending the walls, and we're sending troops out there to defend his regiments, the little people that he has out there at the moment. But eventually, he's going to send his full amount of troops, and we're going to have to, change the game plan a little bit. But y'all will see that happen.
The commander himself was almost captured, but narrowly managed to escape.
So we almost got Titus at this point. Most High didn't allow it to happen though, because that would have been the end of the war. You know what I'm saying? So let's fast forward to 14 minutes. Let's get to the meat of this thing. 14. Oh, you know what? I'm actually not fast forward that much.
Behind Jerusalem's 3 formidable walls, the garrison of the city probably amounted to over 20,000 well-armed troops, who still possessed the siege artillery captured at Beth Horon. Many of the Jews defending the city had lost their families in the previous Roman campaigns and wanted revenge.
So, as I mentioned to y'all, there were other previous Roman campaigns from 66 on, due to Gessius Florus killing a bunch of us after he raided the temple, right? This temple right here for the for what he called overdue taxes, which he was really just taking money because he didn't have much left. He spent all of it during his time in Syria, came back down and tried to take our money, and we revolted because of it. And that's what started this whole thing. So a lot of our people lost our family members between those type of wars and during those revolts in other cities. So now everybody's held up in Jerusalem, the last big city left, and they all want revenge, right?
Despite its population being swollen by refugees, water was not a problem, as Jerusalem had many cisterns and pools that could be filled with rainwater. However,
so we didn't have a problem with getting water because we had built cisterns for it to be able to rain and us be able to collect the water. So we had water held up already from previous times that it rained, and any other time that it would rain during this campaign, you know what I'm saying, we'll be able to collect more water. But as I told you, the problem with the food is different, because once this city here runs out of food, only place you could go to is Cyprus, and Cyprus is now being held up by the enemy. Okay.
food stores had been burned in the inter-Judaic strife months before, and the situation was therefore tenuous. This strife.
And he's also explaining to you that in the civil war that we had months before, right, between the Sakari sect and the Zealots, right, they basically burned a lot of the stores, like Judah does, like Israel does. When they having these little revolts here in America, they burn their own neighborhoods and stuff like that and make it so that they have no resources. We did the same stupid stuff back then. Ain't no new thing under the sun, right? So we acted the same way. We had our little civil war and stuff like that, and we burnt our own cities down, our own stores, our own stuff like that down, so that it made it more difficult once this time came around for us to be able to get resources, because all the places inside the city that we would have where we'd be able to make bread and stuff like that had already been burnt down months before that. So now literally only place we could go to get food is outside the city, and you already seen what they did to cut that off.
Life was still ongoing, even with the Romans so close, and the defending forces were split into 3 sub-factions. Realizing his newly arrived legions must be exhausted from the night march, Titus gave orders to construct 2 camps to the west of the city, one joint camp for the 12th and 15th legions at a stop 3/4 of a mile west of the city walls, and another camp 600 yards further back for the 5th Legion. Shortly after this, the 10th Legion arrived and was ordered to encamp to the east of the city on the Mount of Olives. The looming Roman siege temporarily united the squabbling Jewish factions, and they agreed on an immediate attack against the soldiers of the 10th Legion, who were busy constructing their hill.
Watch what happens when Israel actually unites, right? For a little small moment in this fight, both the Sakari and Zealot fractions got together and they united once they saw, you know, the 2 to 3 sects of the army band together and make camp, and then the third one make camp 60 yards up behind it, 600 yards behind it. They have another camp that arrives in the Mount of Olives, right, where they're trying to set up camp. We agree we're gonna just attack them while they're trying to set up camp and catch them off guard. We're gonna have one group of probably the Zealots go first, the Sakari gonna follow them, or vice versa, and then we're gonna see what happens, right? We agreed to do that, and watch how it works.
Hilltop camp. Sallying out of the city, a detachment of rebels rushed up the slope and cut down droves of legionnaires. Encouraged by this initial success, reinforcements were sent to press the attack, and they managed to drive the men of the 10th Legion.
So look, the 10th Legion has way more soldiers than we have, with just a couple of our people, right, leaving everybody else on the borders of the city to defend the walls. We just sent a couple of soldiers out there, and we was able to push back their whole legion right here, right?
From their uncompleted camp. Hearing of their plight, Titus arrived with his cavalry bodyguard and struck the Jews from the flank, driving them back into the ravine between their camp.
So what Titus has to do now, he rides all the way around the camp once he hears word about his camp at the Mount of Olives not being able to set up, and he basically comes with a couple of soldiers that he handpicked to try to push us out the land, right? Or push us back to our camp, rather.
And the city walls. However, they then attacked again instead of retreating. Under this renewed assault, the Romans broke and fled to the heights, leaving their general. Ashamed, and realizing Titus had not fled, the legion regrouped, charged, and prompted the Jews to flee back to the city. The camp on the hill was subsequently finished, though now it was clear that the Jews would not meekly submit to them.
Okay. So it was known at that point that we wasn't gonna be no punks, even though we were massively outnumbered. It wasn't something we were just gonna turn around and let them have. They see that at this point, right? And it's all because we was able to band together, agree on something, and then carry it out, right? If only Israel could do that today.
Deny the guerrilla fighters a favorable hiding place, and allow siege engines to advance. With this done, Titus decided on concentrating his assault on the western flank of the third wall, between Stephanus Tower and the western gate. The three legions facing this section of the wall were each ordered to construct an earthen timber ramp. The construction efforts were initially disrupted by sorties out of the city, but the concentration of Roman artillery, including large stone-throwing devices and quick-firing iron bolt-throwing scorpions, pinned the Jews down long enough for the works to be completed. Retaining a
So now they're using their Trojan horse battering rams that they are famous for to try to break down our walls, right? And it's going to take time, but at some point, eventually, it's going to work.
a steady rain of missiles on the walls, Titus then ordered 3 battering rams to smash the western wall, which were
These movies that you see, like Lord of the Rings and everything like that, this is like, those are the depictions of them trying to put themselves in our shoes and our hands and everything like that, trying to put themselves in our position and make it seem like they had actual castles that were fortified that they had to defend. But that's all stuff that we did. You understand what I'm saying? And they just are implanting themselves in those movies to give themselves the glory. But movies like that, picture that type of situation being what this is here, right? We're the men, the soldiers, the armies, the elf, whatever it is, right? And they're the orcs trying to infiltrate our kingdom and get between our walls, right? And they're gonna actually get inside. It's the same type of thing. Phil?
were initially unsuccessful until 3 siege towers were brought up to reinforce them. After a long period of pressure, on the 15th day of the siege, Roman siege engines punched a hole through the wall. With their entire force now at risk, the defenders quickly withdrew to the second wall, leaving Titus to occupy the new city.
So this is the reason why we built these other walls, and we had little cities and villages within the walls, so that if they were able to break a wall down, because we knew they had these battering rams at the time, it's been a big thing since, like, basically they got on the scene. So something that they use to take down enemy lines. So and these are things, as you read in the history book, or as I read in the history book for y'all, these are things that Alexander paid money for. This is the type of stuff that his gold was able to buy, things other people didn't have. Darius bought big ass elephants, and Alexander made battering rams for walls. You feel?
Unwilling to surrender their momentum, the legions immediately moved their rams up to the second wall, where they began to batter the tower gate. After just 4 days of attacks, one of the rams brought it down and made a breach. Legionaries flooded through it into the eerily silent second city.
So once they got into the first gate, once they broke down the west gate, they got to the new city, and it only took them 4 days to break down the wall to get into the basically where the tomb of John Hyrcanus is, right? This little area here.
However, as they advanced, rebels sprung from ambush positions and bombarded the Romans with missile fire. Quickly forming into their tight shielded squares, the legions fought their way back to the narrow breach, where many died struggling to push through. Eventually, auxiliary archers arrived and drove the Jews away, allowing the bewildered legionaries to escape.
You feel? So now they're moving closer and closer into the into our city, right? And basically, once they take down the temple, it's a wrap. We know that. So you're gonna start to see everybody basically just try to scramble to defend the temple at this point, because they're already into the new city. They've broken through the tomb of John Hyrcanus. They're gonna try to get to the temple before they get to Herod's palace, because it's Herod's palace.
After the Jews resisted in this area for 4
The water see woods for the generous donation. The water, God being generous to me.
more days, the Romans finally broke through. This time, Titus ordered the entire northern section of the second wall torn down. The defensive front now narrowed, and the Jews were able to bring more forces to bear on their enemy. After advancing into the second city, Titus now split his legions into 2 army groups, which each constructed 2 siege ramps. The 10th and 15th legions attacked the first wall opposite the tomb of John Hyrcanus, while the 5th and 12th legions besieged the Antonia fortress.
All right, so we see the Antonia fortress here. This legion here is going to try to take down Herod's palace at some point. These guys are going to stay here until it's time. And you're going to see that they're going to have to do some really underhanded stuff to take us down. It wasn't like no real fair fight type of, us going head to head, face to face, and then they beat us. It wasn't like that. You're going to see what they had to do to actually win. Esau's a devil. Can't even win a war straight up. You know what I'm saying?
Named by Herod the Great in honor of Mark Antony. The ramps were eventually completed on May 29th, followed by an all-out assault, during which Titus brought up additional battering rams and siege engines to assault the Antonia fortress. They did this under constant artillery fire from bolt shooters and stone throwers, which the Jews had taken from Gallus in 66.
So see, and something else you're gonna realize, a lot of the reason why we were able to last as long as we did is because between the period of 66 AD to like now 70 AD, or at this time period 70 AD, we were able to steal a lot of their stuff in the different like wars and campaigns that we won during the revolts. We stole a couple battering rams, we stole a couple of their boulder throwers, and you're gonna see, and we also stole a lot of their like armor. So at some point they're gonna explain to you that it's going to be hard for them to fight us once it gets time for them to break through the Antonia fortress into the temple, because we're going to look just like them. We're going to be wearing the same type of army fatigue that they wear. You know what I'm saying? Same type of army that they wear, same type of armor that they wear, Salakia. And that's what's going to cause them to be confused. It's going to cause, self-fire, them hitting their own men. And that's going to bring a little bit of confusion to the war at some point, which is going to buy us some time. But at the end of the day, it's not going to work. But just to show you how the type of military minds we had back then, we had a lot of good plans that worked, and we were massively outnumbered, and we were able to last like basically, multiple years. Because like I said, this thing didn't end in 70 AD. Brothers was able to last till 73 AD till they conquered Masada. So.
As the assault began, Jewish sappers dug under the Roman siege lines, undermined the ramps, and set fire to the tunnel. This caused the ground to collapse in on itself in a clattering roar, swallowing the Roman ramps and siege towers,
So we built holes, we dug tunnels under the ground while they were building these ramps to try to come against us, because the way Esau would work was they wouldn't necessarily take the ramps and just carry them and drag them throughout the land and everything. They would build them on site. They would bring the materials and everything to build them on site, bring their engineers and their maps and all that type of stuff, the instruction manual, whatever the hell it was, right? And they would build these battering rams on site. So they parked the rams about right here and right here to take down Herod's palace, and some more to take down the Antonia fortress. And we basically dug holes underground and they collapsed inside of the ground, right? No more to be seen.
demoralized the legions as they had spent weeks constructing these engines. To improve security, tighten the blockade, and restore morale, Titus ordered that an 8-kilometer-long wall of circumvallation was to be constructed, cutting the besieged sections of Jerusalem off from the outside world. This massive undertaking was typically finished in only 3 days by the Romans, and had 13 fortresses along its circumference to strengthen it. Before it was made, the Jewish rebels were able to quite easily venture out of the city to forage for food and supplies, but this was now made impossible.
So remember what I told you earlier, right? About us being able to go to Cyprus or Bethlehem before they took over Bethlehem and be able to get food and everything to replace the resources that we used in the city, right? While we were held up trying to build these walls and held up trying to come up with plans to be able to defend against the siege. So now what they've done, since they've seen that we destroyed their battering rams, to give themselves more time to build more rams, which is what these would become here in the back, right? What they did was in 3 days, they built this 8-kilometer long, basically like a wall, a 1-level wall, where they have fortresses, 13 fortresses, where some of these 70,000 troops were split up and put there to basically guard us and trap us in the city itself, so that we wouldn't be able to move outside the city to get to places like Cyprus, so that we could, gain, so that we could, get resources and stuff like that. Because like I said, we already had water because of the cisterns that we created, but food and everything like that, things we need to eat, resources for weapons and stuff like that, we don't have that stuff right now. It's all in Cyprus being held up by the enemies. And now, whereas we were able to sneak up there before, we had like little underground tunnels, underground railroads, if you want to call it that, right? Where brothers and sisters in the held up city would be able to still pass us resources and stuff. Now that's impossible because they built this wall around the city, trapping us in. So this is basically when things are gonna, downfall for us.
Famine quickly descended on the city, and its inhabitants slowly began to starve and die.
So this is also a curse in Deuteronomy 28 that we're going to bring out in a minute, right? Where y'all talk about the famine, where it talks about them having to eat the children of their own people, right? The seed of their own womb. Is because, this is the time period where in Luke is talking about they would have to eat their own children. This is that right here, right? In Deuteronomy 28. It happened because they cut off the fortified cities where we had resources at, like Cyprus and Bethlehem, and then built this wall so we would be trapped inside the city. So basically, leaving the city itself put you in enemy lines where you would be slaughtered. Staying inside the city means that you have nothing but water to drink, and water is not enough to sustain you, for long periods of time, so you end up dying of hunger, right? And that's what was happening.
This done, Titus now focused all his efforts on conquering the Antonia fortress again. A day of assaults initially yielded no results. However, the Romans had accomplished more than they had realized. The foundations of the Antonia fortress, undermined by heavy rain and the...
Hey, y'all hit the like button, man. Y'all hit the like button so Israel could see this.
Jewish saboteurs' tunnel, which had destroyed the Roman siege engines, collapsed during the night. The first Romans who exploited this gap discovered to their horror that the Jews had built up a secondary wall behind the first, which was eventually overcome when a contingent of brave legionaries attacked it during a night assault.
So they had a night assault, it's raining and everything like that. They decided to break through the Antonia fortress. They got through, they start climbing the wall and everything. And then they break through, they see we have another wall on the inside of the temple to protect it, and they're still able to break through that wall. So
the first of several battles for the Temple Mount occurred after this, during which the Romans failed to break out onto the forecourt. In its aftermath, Titus ordered the Antonia fortress destroyed. On July 17th, the Romans attempted to seize the temple's courtyard again, but were again repulsed in close quarters fighting. during which the Jews were often wearing captured Roman equipment. This confused the combatants and made friendly fire incidents common.
See, so we had a lot of their equipment on. It made friendly fire incidents like very common. That happened a lot, and eventually they would catch on to what we were doing though, and be able to take us down. To fast forward to that part, yeah, right here.
With a fire trap, and this killed many soldiers as they advanced, seemingly unhinged.
So we set another trap, just so y'all know what happens there. We had set another trap where they had started a battering ram, and we basically went around and caught it on fire, burned down, and killed a lot of their soldiers and everything.
By August 9th.
But it also pissed them off. So this is what they started doing. They started moving the little legions that are on patrol at the wall. Now that they know we're blocked in, they start having a lot of them come in. They're not on patrol anymore, so that they can move in on the city and really start to take the city down. They were waiting to take down the Antonia fortress because they know that we're basically going to lose our hope and faith once the temple falls. So if everybody can move in on the temple, then, and they could actually make it fall, it's a wrap. They knew this, and that's what happened.
Withering artillery fire and Roman offensives had made the Jewish defense of the courtyard untenable, and they pulled back to the inner defenses of the temple itself. On August 10th, during the heavy fighting, a fire began in apartments near the outer court, which spread and famously set the second.
Did y'all see that? It was a Roman legion that started the fire on the apartments, or the so-called housing places that the Israelites were living in around this temple, right? So he goes and sets our housing on fire, little apartments as the Edomite called it, right? That were in the same gates as the temple, near the Antonia fortress. They have a man come, or multiple soldiers probably come and set these things on fire, which distracts us and allows the temple itself to catch fire, which allows this to happen.
Temple alight, being spread due to the arid conditions and the flammable materials all around. With Jewish attention divided between fighting the fires which blazed through their most holy place and defending against the Romans, they were finally broken, and their
You understand? So the way they beat us wasn't by taking down all the walls and defeating all of our soldiers and everything. It was by catching us in a fight with them from the front, cornering us so that we don't have that many soldiers to come help us, because there's walls basically surrounding us here. So these guys can't get in to help them. These guys can't get in to help them here. So basically whatever soldiers, whatever fighters we have up here is stuck to fight here. And what they did was they had guys come around the back, set the housing on fire. And because of the arid conditions, basically the fire spread, was able to catch fire onto other things and spread until it got to the temple. And we became overwhelmed with trying to save the temple at that point, not really fight the war at hand. You understand? And they were able to take us down while we were trying to stop the temple from burning. And that's basically how we fell. Right there. Right?
entire Temple Mount was seized in an orgy of butchery and looting. With their bloodlust finally sated, the Roman soldiers proclaimed Titus Imperator victorious general. With this done, the legions were unleashed on the lower city, burning houses, government buildings, archives, and anything else the legions could get their hands on.
And this is why the scriptures in Luke that we're about to read right now, if y'all want to go ahead and turn to that, Luke chapter 21, this is why it says what it says about us not needing to go into the city, and people that were in the city were going to be cursed, because it's the type of things that would happen to them, right? Those that survived were put in slavery, you know what I'm saying, again. And many didn't survive. Many were just killed, raped, robbed, murdered, burnt, whatever it was, right? Because that's what Esau wanted to do. So this is the violence of Esau, man. This is what they did. So how is that a blessing? I want to ask right quick. How is that them blessing us, right? For those of y'all that believe that the so-called blacks, Hispanic, and Native Americans are the children, are the Israelites according to the Bible, and all nations are supposed to be blessed that bless us, how did the Edomites bless us? By destroying our temple, putting us in slavery. You know what I'm saying? Burning the whole damn city down, right? Going through a period of 6 years and just, tearing our cities down while we're trying to revolt and fight against that type of stuff. Like, that's not helping us. That's hurting us. That's what they did in that instance, right? They didn't help us with anything. So let's get some scripts now to prove the point. Now that we've seen the video. So let's get Luke chapter 21. Let's get the account of what we just saw on YouTube. Luke chapter 21, we'll start at 19. As you see, it's red letter. It's Yahushua talking. This is what he said was going to happen, right? 70 AD, 70 years after the death, right? So check it out. Luke 21 and 19. In your patience possess ye your souls, because you was going to have to be patient in this moment, right? You was going to have faith that the Most High was going to save you out of it. And if you died, he was going to put you back on the earth again to, live how you're supposed to live. Verse 20. And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, meaning surrounded, right? So they were able to look outside the walls and see Titus's army surrounding them, right? Those 70,000 split legions of soldiers, right? When he says, when you see Jerusalem compassed with those armies, then know the desolation thereof is near, right? So it's going to be desolate. The desolation that he was talking about, the destruction is going to happen. It's about to go down, right? This is what he was telling you. Verse 21. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, because they had a chance to flee, right? Up until like the last 2 days or last 3 days of the war, they didn't have no wall surrounding them, surrounding the whole place, right? So they built this wall. Esau built this wall to stop us and trap us in. But up until the time when they did that, we were able to flee to the mountains. We were able to flee to Africa. We were able to flee to dispersing countries and everything. As you know, though, we couldn't flee anywhere to the east. So that's a cut to you Negro only niggas that say that they wasn't fleeing to nowhere towards the east. Nowhere towards the west. They was only fleeing towards the east. That wouldn't make no damn sense, because that's where all of the Alexander the Great's whole army was, towards the east. You saw how big Seleucus's region was, right? The region of Seleucus' army basically spans throughout the whole Middle East, going towards the east side from Jerusalem. So it wouldn't have been nowhere we could hide if we went that way and dispersed and settled in that land. So the only place we could have went was where Esau wasn't in control, which the only place in Africa that you saw on the map that he had in control was by Ptolemy, and that was Egypt. So if you move past Egypt, that means you're in the clear. Ain't nothing going on at that point. So that's what we did. The mountains that we ran to weren't the mountains to the east, it was the mountains to the west, right? Near Africa, because that's where the enemy that we're hiding from isn't inhabiting. You see that he has generals in Syria, he has generals in Jordan, he has generals in Babylon, he has generals in the Persian Medes Empire. That's all Seleucus's region, right? So the only place we can move is to Africa, because everywhere east or northwest of that is still taken over by Esau because of Cassander and Lysimachus and everything, having control of everywhere from Turkey to Europe, right? So that's how this was. Ain't nowhere else we could run except Jerusalem. So don't let them cut you with that, because they don't know what they're talking about. Them niggas need to look at a map. But I'll read 21 again. So let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter therein too. So once we seen that they were compassing armies before they built this wall, we were supposed to be telling people don't go in and out the city, right? Only people that are supposed to be in and out were the soldiers that were sent to go get supplies from places like Cyprus and Bethlehem before Bethlehem was taken over, right? So 22. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things were written may be fulfilled, right? So we'll read up to 24. But woe unto them that are with child, right? And to them that give suck in those days. Why? Because there would eventually be a famine. You heard the white man say that, right? They built that wall around us in 3 days and caused a famine in the land. And so the people, the women, the children that were stuck in the land in the fortified cities that we had being protected at that point, they were no longer protected because we couldn't get them any food. So what they had to do, they had to eat their babies. It says, for there shall be great distress in the land and wrath upon this people. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and they shall be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Why? Because this was going to be the beginning of them really being able to take over the land, right? They already had us in captivity and everything while they were there, but this is going to make us like disperse. This is going to disperse the Israelites from the land, which is going to make it desolate and put it right in the position that they need to be put in so that they can move right in, right? This is when the Ashkenazis and everything like that would get the idea of them being able to move to Israel. This is when Palestinians would get the idea of being able to take the land of Israel. This is when all these other nations that wanted hand in the land would, get their piece of the pie until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled, right? So let's get some more now. Let's get it. First Maccabees chapter 2, verse 7. I'm not gonna do this. So like as y'all can see, man, this is how they did it. It wasn't no fair fight, no like them bringing the fight to us and actually taking us down. They had to start a fire and burn down the temple and get us distracted in order to take us down completely. That's how they had to do it. This is First Maccabees chapter 2, verse 7. He said, woe is me, wherefore I was born to see the misery of my people and of the holy city, right? Because it's destruction. Damn, the destruction to me because I was born to see the misery of my people and the holy city and to dwell there when it was delivered into the hand of the enemy and the sanctuary into the hand of strangers, right? This happened during the time of the Maccabees when they went to the temple and destroyed it, started doing they started dallying with the harlots and having the unclean animals all in the temple. They built the naked gymnasium with the boys butt naked with the caps on their heads and stuff like that. Like this is all the type of stuff they did back then, and it will continue into 70 AD, right? Because we're already in subjection to them. Now it's going to get worse. Now, instead of just making us be in subjection to them, they're going to destroy the temple and disperse us into all nations. Right? That's how this was. That's exactly how it went, according to the scriptures, right? Verse 8. Yeah. When it was delivered into the hand of the enemy and the sanctuary into the hand of strangers. Her temple is become as a man without glory. Her glorious vessels are carried away into captivity, meaning the Israelites. Her infants are slain in the streets, her young men with the sword of the enemy. You understand? Because that's what they were doing, right? They were raping, pillaging, robbing, burning as they please. This is the permission that General Titus gave them, right? What nation hath not had part in her kingdom and gotten of her spoils, right? What nation didn't have part in this? You understand what I'm saying? Because you got to think about it. Just in Alexander the Greek's captivity that we had, in the captivities that would go on since then, under his generals and everything, all the lands that they had other people involved in it, right? The Edomites and the Ishmaelites were involved in this captivity because in any place that Alexander had control over, or his generals had control over, where those people lived, they would be the people over us in those lands, right? He would just have his general there and make their leaders advisors, but they would still be over the Israelites. So they still had us in captivity, right? And that goes for all the lands that these Edomites ran. You feel me? Then it would happen separately with the Africans. We're going to talk about that next time. And then Ishmael had their own slavery and captivities and stuff like that with us, where Moab was involved and stuff, in Babylon and Assyria. You know what I'm saying? So that's how Moab and Ammon get they just due in the nations that span from them. You feel? Japhet's been in control or involved in this when it came to Esau being involved in it, because Japhet was working as the Greeks. You feel? So there's literally no nation. What nation hath not had a part in her kingdom and gotten of her spoils? There is no nation that didn't have a part in that, man. That's why none of them are going to be blessed, because not one of them niggas blessed us. You understand? Not one of them foreign nations blessed us, man. All her ornaments are taken away. Of a free woman, she has become a bond slave. So we went from a free woman to bond slave. Why is he liking this to a woman? Because the Most High is a man and he's married unto us. He's not a faggot. So were a woman in the eyes of the Most High as a nation, the nation of Israel, right? So all her ornaments are taken away, right? The Israelites, we don't have, because what did Hitler call us, right? Hitler called us the jewels of God, right? He know that we're the ornaments of the Most High. Esau knows who we are. So he took away the ornaments, and we went from a free woman to a bond slave. Verse 12. And behold, our sanctuary, even our beauty and our glory, is laid waste, and the Gentiles have profaned it. That's talking about the temple. In the time of the Maccabees, before they burnt it down, as you saw in 70 AD, they were profaning the temple. Then they decided to take us over and burn it down, right? And now they're trying to rebuild it. It's just madness. You feel me? This is what Esau does. So let's go to Leviticus chapter 26, Salaki. Because a lot of y'all would be like, well, you know, Esau, he only did this because the Most High allowed him to do this. You know what I'm saying? We should be mad at the Most High. That's what the Christians would say. Why should we serve a God that would allow this to happen to us? Well, it's our fault, fools. Let me show you. Because that's the pride that like Jake has now, right? We ask questions like that. Why would we serve a God that allowed that to happen to us? Aren't we supposed to be the chosen? You say we're the Israelites, but he let that happen? Oh no, I'm not. My God wouldn't do that. White Jesus wouldn't do that. Let's see, bro. That's how y'all act. That's how they sound, ain't it? What I want. Leviticus 26. That's how y'all sound, man. Let's start at verse 2. I want to start at 28. We'll start at 28. Leviticus chapter 26, verse 28. We'll start at 27. Salaki. It says, and if he will not for all this hearken unto me, but walk contrary unto me. So this is the Most High, right? Speak to the Israelites through Moses. Says, if you're not going to hearken unto me, but walk contrary unto me, kind of like he did in Deuteronomy, says, then will I walk contrary unto you, also in fury. Meaning he's going to walk contrary unto us, but he's going to be pissed off while he's doing it. And I, even I, will chastise you 7 times for your sins. So he's going to chastise us until we're complete. And guess what, Israel? How many captivities do we have? How many major captivities do we have? Y'all seen the sign before. There's 7 of them, man. Right? We'll put that up when I finish this scripture. It says, 29. And ye shall eat the flesh of your sons, and the flesh of your daughters shall ye eat. Right? When did they eat the flesh of their sons and their daughters? In the siege of Jerusalem in 70 AD. After that wall was built around the city in 3 days by General Titus and his soldiers, and they had them 13 strongholds built so that you couldn't go nowhere and sneak out, a famine started, and our people started to starve and die. And the ones that didn't starve and die, they lived by eating the flesh of their children. Right? Verse 30. And I will destroy your high places and cut down your images and cast your carcasses upon the carcasses of your idols, and my soul shall abhor you. Right? So far we've seen the Edomites abhorred us, right? We've seen the Most High abhorred us, and y'all don't want to abhor Edomites. Y'all still bringing out Deuteronomy 23 and 7? Man, stop that mess, bro. Y'all sound stupid. Verse 31. And I will make your cities waste and bring your sanctuaries unto desolation, and I will not smell your savor of your sweet odors, right? The Most High is not going to deal with us no more, or our feast days and none of that stuff. 32. And I will bring the land into desolation. That's what happened, right? The land became desolate after this moment, after this time in history. Whew. Land became desolate right here, man. And then the enemies were able to trot it down until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. It says, and your enemies which dwell therein shall be astonished at it. And I will scatter you among the heathen. Ain't that what happened? That's Deuteronomy 20 and 64. He's going to scatter us among the heathen, right? And will draw out a sword after you, and your land shall be desolate, and your cities waste. That's what happened. And then shall the land enjoy her Sabbaths, as long as it lie desolate, and ye be in your enemy's land. Because there was a time period where nobody was walking through the land, nobody was doing what they're doing now. The Gentiles weren't completely destroying it and trodden it down. So it was able to enjoy its Sabbath until 1948. That's when things changed. You feel? So even then shall the land rest and enjoy her Sabbath. Verse 35. As did I want to stop there? Keep me at 30. Okay. As long as it lieth desolate, it shall rest, because it did not rest in your Sabbath when you dwelt upon it. Why didn't it rest? Because we weren't keeping the Sabbath the way we were supposed to. We weren't even resting on the Sabbath day. Like a lot of you niggas not resting now. So that's why it's allowing it to rest now. You feel? Esau keeps the Sabbath a lot better than we did. And that shit is sad. 35. As long as it lieth desolate, it shall rest, because it did not rest in your Sabbath when ye dwelt upon it. You understand? And upon them that are left alive of you, I will send a faintness into their hearts in the lands of their enemies. So those of you that were left alive, you were faint. You were thinking that there was going to be no hope. You didn't have no faith in you being delivered from that situation. You know what I'm saying? And it's because the Most High basically abhorred you. And he was furious, right? The sound, it says, and the sound of a shaken leaf shall chase them, right? Just a leaf falling on the ground gonna make you start running and scrambling for whatever. That's how it was for us in the Jim Crow days, right? Brothers would be running across the street when it get dark outside, just at the sound of a leaf, because how scary it was to be outside back then. If you caught on the streets and it's dark outside, when the street lights come on, they can hang you. So same thing, man. Ain't no new thing under the sun. I wouldn't be surprised if that was happening during the time of the Romans. That's where they got it from. Everything that they use in this society was a model that was done during the time of this one, Alexander the Great, right? So verse 36, and upon them, here, and the sound of a shaking sword, a shaking leaf shall chase them, and they shall flee as fleeing from a sword, and they shall fall when none pursue it, right? You're going to be tripping over yourself. Gonna be so scared, so faint-hearted. Verse 37. And they shall fall one upon another, as they were before a sword, when none pursue it, and ye shall have no power to stand before your enemies. And that's what's basically happened, right? Now our power to stand before the enemies is the damn Black Lives Matter march down the street. Enemies laughing at that, because he's like, that's some stuff we told y'all to do. We gave y'all that idea. That ain't even your idea that you're coming up with it to try to combat us with. You understand what I'm saying? We taught Gayard Rustin to teach Martin Luther King that, who would teach the rest of y'all that foolishness? To just march. You feel? Verse 38. And ye shall perish among the heathen. That's what's been happening, right? We're perishing among the heathen. A lot of y'all are perishing due to this coronavirus because you ain't repented yet, right? And the land of your enemies shall eat you up. And they that are left of you shall pine away in your iniquity in their enemies' lands. And that's what's been happening. Right now, we're doing that. A lot of our people are pining away in their iniquity, thinking they don't need to repent, thinking they saved by the blood of Jesus, right? And really what they're doing is they're pining in their iniquity in their enemies' lands, and also in the iniquities of their fathers shall they pine away in them, right? Because of Baruch 3 and 8. We'll get that. And they shall confess, actually, we're going to stop there. We're going to stop there for a second. Let's get 2 Maccabees chapter 3, verse 48. All right. Actually, let's not get that. Let's just jump to Deuteronomy. Y'all know 2 Mac 3:48 is the script where they would open the book of the law and seek to paint the likeness of their images. That's what they did here. But let's get Deuteronomy 28 so that I can show y'all some of these curses that happened during this time period. So we'll start with 16, right? Deuteronomy 28:16. Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field. As you've seen, the cities were all the different cities that we had, in the fields where, our resources and stuff being eaten and taken over by the enemies. Cursed shalt thou basket in our store. The Edomite told you while he was explaining the video to you guys that a lot of our people that had stores and everything destroyed their stores in the Civil War because of Deuteronomy 28:54, right? So our basket in our store was cursed to the point where we weren't even allowed to, or able rather, to have resources to sustain ourselves throughout the war. We ended up having to eat our children because, the Most High, he had cut that off from us. Verse 18. So cursed shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy land, and increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep. Cursed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and cursed shalt thou be when thou goest out, right? All these things happen to us. Our land was cursed, our kind was cursed, our flocks and our sheep were given to other nations. They were taking them, eating them, using them as supplies. And whenever we came in the city, we were cursed because we would leave the city and come back to it being ravished. You know what I'm saying? Destroyed, burnt down, or razed as they called it. You understand? So verse 20. The Lord shall send thee cursing, vexation, and rebuke in all that thou seest thine hand unto for to do, until thou be destroyed, and until thou perish quickly, because the wickedness of thy doings whereby thou hast forsaken me. So we forsook the Most High. We started doing it wickedly, and that's what He did. This was the punishment that we got. Right? Let's jump down to verse 25. And Yahweh shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. And that's what happened, right? He killed us before our enemies in our own land. And thou shalt go out one way against them, right? We're going to go out one way all strong and everything. But then what? Flee 7 ways before them. And every time they broke a wall, as y'all saw, that's what happened. We fled 7 ways before them every time they broke a wall down. And shall be removed into all kingdoms of the earth. And once they took down the temple, that's what happened. We were removed into all kingdoms of the earth. That's right, Issachar. History always repeats itself. Let's jump. Let's do 26. And thy carcass shall be meat unto the fowls of the air and unto the beasts of the earth, and no man shall fray them away, right? Because who's there to fray the bodies away when everybody in the damn city's dead? There's nothing but dead bodies in the city. After they burn the city down, kill everybody, they just leave dead for the animals of the wilderness to like scavenge on you. That's what happened, man. That's what happened to your ancestors. That's what Esau did. Esau just killed everybody, left them in the city to be eaten on by the birds and the fowls of the earth and the beasts of the earth, man. Verse 33. The fruit of thy land and all thy labor shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up. And that's what happened, man. Titus had his legions going up there eating our food and using it as their own supplies. And then built a wall so we couldn't go back and get it. And thou shalt only be oppressed and cursed always, so that thou shalt be mad in the sight of thine enemies. In the sight of thine eyes, which thou shalt see. Which pisses us off, right? Oppression makes a wise man mad. You only get mad about the type of stuff that's happening if you're wise enough to know what's going on. That's the sad thing. Verse 36. And Yahweh shall bring thee and thy king, which thou set over thee, unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, and thou shalt serve gods, other gods, wood and stone. Right? That's the type of stuff that happened once we went into those other nations. We were having to call ourselves Greeks and Romans and bow down to their gods. You know what I'm saying? Become quote unquote Christians. All that type of stuff. Call ourselves Antiochians, call ourselves Corinthians, call ourselves Romans, Greeks, Thessalonians, what else? Galatians, whatever it was, Ephesians, all these different people, man. This is us serving other guys. This is us taking on other nationalities, other cultures, and leaving our culture and losing our culture, right? For wood and stone. And it says, and thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword, right? An astonishment. How did these people go from the strongest people on the face of the earth to being nothing, right? A proverb. Want to hide something from a nigga, put it in the book. That's why y'all never heard none of this history before. And I read the book, so I got the history, right? A byword. Niggas, spics, coons, colored, Mexicans, Hispanics, slothful people, lazy, whatever it is, right? These are your bywords among all nations which the Lord shall lead thee. You understand? These are the type of things that happen to us. So let's jump to verse 45. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee and shall pursue thee and overtake thee till thou beest destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of Yahweh thy God to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. Because thou servest not the Lord thy God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart, for the abundance of all things. You understand? Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies. And that's what happened to us, man. He sent them enemies against us, and we started serving them. which Yahweh shall send against thee in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he hath destroyed thee. Right? So that's what happened, man. That's what would lead to this. If y'all read 49 to 53, those also go with what we talking about. But I'm gonna jump to 62. And ye shall be left few in number, whereas ye were as the stars of the heaven of multitude. For multitude, because thou wouldest not obey the voice of Yahweh thy God. So he's saying he's gonna leave a smaller number at this point, right? And this honestly is around the time period when they started making sure that they start separating us and giving us these byword names. Like today we have, Negro, African American, Black, but then there's Bahamians, West Indians, Haitians, Jamaicans, whatever you want to call them, all split up into these different sects. There's Hispanics put together, but then they get split up between like Mexican, Puerto Rican, Colombian, whatever, Honduran, you know what I'm saying? All these different splits and sects of the Hispanic, so-called Hispanic, and the so-called Negro and everything. That's what makes us smaller number, right? We still as the sand of the sea, but we're smaller number now because he's divided us amongst the nations, and now they basically split us up, right? He made us these bywords and split the bywords up so that they seem like they're different people when really we're all the same. So like, yeah, I'll read that too. And it shall come to pass that as Yahweh rejoiced over you to do you good and to multiply you, so Yahweh will rejoice over you to destroy you. Hold on. Salakia. Textual. Salakia. And it shall come to pass that as Yahweh rejoice over you to do you good and to multiply you, so Yahweh will rejoice over you to destroy you and to bring you to naught. And ye shall be plucked from off the land whither thou goest to possess it. Right? So that's what happened to us. We got plucked from the land. And guess what happened? And Yahweh shall scatter thee among all people, which is why all nations are going to be blessed, because we're going to be amongst all people, and from one end of the earth unto the other. And thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. There it is again, right? And among these nations shalt thou find no ease, neither shalt the sole of thy feet have rest, but Yahweh shall give thee there a trembling heart and failing eyes, and sorrow of mind. You feel? That's what we got. Let's read the verse 67. And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, which is what happened then and is happening now. Because nowadays you can't really leave the house and everything like that. If you got a cop behind you, you don't know if you're going to survive that. Judging by the certain things that happened in this time period that we've seen recently, right, in recent years. So even now, our life hangs in the balance. You feel? And thou shalt fear day and night, and shalt have no assurance of thy life. You feel? In the morning thou shalt say, would God it were even, and at even thou shalt say, would God it were morning. Like, God, I wish it was even. God, I wish it was morning. Like, you feel what I'm saying? At night, you're going to always wish that it was a different time of the day, because in the morning, you're always going to wish it was nighttime so you wouldn't have to be working and stuff. You're always just going to be wishing that you're not going to have to be doing the things that you're doing. For the fear of thine heart, wherewith thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thine eyes, which thou shalt see. You understand? And then we know 28:68, when he brings us into Egypt again with ships, to be slave men and slave women, and no man shall buy us. So this is how Esau got us, man. This is what they did, right? And it led to Jeremiah chapter 17:4. Slovakia. Right? Thou even thyself shalt discontinue from thy heritage that I gave you, and I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not, for you have kindled a fire in mine anger, which shall burn forever. That's what happened to us, man. We kindle the fire in the Most High's anger, and he's burning the hell out that thing right now. You feel me? Like, we got Hellenization that started us to do this stuff, right? We've brought it up before. Second Maccabees chapter 4, when we start wearing the hats and stuff like that. Uh, um, what's his name? Jason takes out his brother Onias, becomes the head high priest, and starts, bringing his people, or our people, I should say, onto Greekish fashions, right? Basically bringing us into Hellenization. And I wanted to bring this out so that y'all can see just how powerful Hellenization was, right? This is the Hellenistic culture from that Two Worlds Apart book. It says, just as broad uniformity in politics and war triumphed the small size and diversity of the old city-state, so the individual city-state cultures now gave way to homogenized Hellenistic culture. So it's saying that all these cities that were fortified and having their own culture and everything are now giving way to homogenized Hellenistic culture, meaning it's just one Hellenistic culture out there. It's not various Hellenistic cultures, there are different ways to celebrate Hellenistic culture, so to speak, but it's only one Hellenistic culture, and that's to be as vile as the crackers themselves, right? So, following the existing commercial networks, this uniform Greek culture spread rapidly throughout the entire Mediterranean basin and beyond, right? Why? Because that's how far Alexander the Greek's nation would span, even past his death. Now America runs everything, and it's still Hellenistic culture. It's just not called Hellenistic culture no more. Now it's Americanized culture, right? The culture of the Americans. But the whole world is doing it. Everybody's speaking English, everybody's using the dollar. It's because everybody has become, or has given way, so to speak, to homogenized Hellenistic culture, right? No new thing under the sun. It says, Greek culture spread rapidly throughout the Mediterranean and beyond. It was an alluring package, and ruling elites in all regions that encountered it fell under its powerful spell. So this is why you see the people in the Turkish islands or the Turkish lands doing this stuff. You see the Ishmaelites still acting like Edomites, wearing their suits and everything. They don't have their turbans on and all their little Ishmaelite gear. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody's falling under the web of Edomite culture, right? Because it's all a Hellenistic society now. So, Hellenistic culture included philosophical and political thinking, right? Which is why Colossians 2:8 or 3:8 says that you should. Yeah, let's get it right quick. Let's get it. Yes. Says, beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Christ. Why did Paul say this? Because at this time, everybody's going through Hellenistic culture. Everybody's giving way, falling victim to, or being put under the spell of the homogenized Hellenistic culture of this day, which is the culture of the crackers, right? COC. So this is what it is, right? Let me see where I want to skip to. Yeah, okay. Hellenistic culture included philosophical and political thinking, secular disciplines ranging from history to biology. This is when they got that whole school curriculum thing down pat, right? We had taught them what we need to teach them, and now they start making up things like history and biology to try to counterbalance and make sense of the things we were teaching, right? They put names on it and use certain concepts and stuff that we gave them and put their own philosophical thinking behind it, which gave you what we have now, right? And the things that they teach us in school. This all started back during this time period. As I said, this is the same model then that we're using now. It says popular entertainment in theaters, comprehensive public games like, playing basketball, NBA, NFL, soccer, baseball, all that stuff started here with, like, the gladiator games and stuff, right? It says, and the art for art's sake in all kinds of media, right? That's why the media is big, and it's the head horse of them all here because it became the big thing there. But the head of the media at that time were the artists, right? People like Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo and anything like anybody along that line, right? So no other society at the time had such a complete package of high culture. Why did they have high culture? Because they basically stole their cultures from every single society that they came across and added their own philosophical thinking to it, mainly ours. Hence, its widespread appeal and diffusion, which is why they were able to widespread, because they allowed other people to kind of use a little bit of the things they were using before, except for the Israelites, and then just add white customs to it, because the white folks were the ones running the lands then. And as I told you, with everybody but Israel, what the generals did was they moved into the land and just assumed the position instead of changing everything. But as they did with us, they went and just flipped everything around, tried to force us to live how they wanted us to live, and just force us into Hellenistic culture. They didn't do that with everybody else. Okay? So archaeologists have found a Greek-style gymnasium, just like the gymnasium that Jason had built, right? And theater in the town of Al-Kahom in modern Afghanistan. So modern Afghanistan, I believe, is the land of the Edomites, the Persians and Medes. So so-called East Indians live there, even though it's in the quote-unquote Middle East or whatever. And these people had one of them gymnasiums just like we did in Israel. You know what I'm saying? Because Hellenistic culture spread that far. So they had also in this land in Afghanistan, they had the naked little dudes working for Seleucus. You know what I'm saying? They had the naked gymnasium with the little mentors and everything in there, holding the weights, spotting them and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? With their little hats on, their bonnets and stuff, right? It says, in the adaptations of Greek sculptures made at the order of Vedic King Sandakotos, better known as Sandragupta. So they also had Greek sculptures in East India, right? More proof that these Afghani people are Edomites, okay? And we know that Carthaginians in North Africa, who became Greek philosophers, and Gallic and Berber chieftains from far west France and North Africa had fine Greek-styling drinking vessels that they buried with them. So it says the core element of Hellenization was a common language known as Koine Greek or Common Greek. This is why the New Testament was translated from Hebrew into Greek, because they were trying to make the New Testament scripture something that everybody could understand, since they were trying to make it a what was it called? A universal system, right? A Catholic system. You understand what I'm saying? So they created a type of Greek that was common for everybody, and you're going to see that it's going to spread throughout places like Judea, Egypt, and Syria, and all the other places that don't actually speak those languages as well, which is why Israelites were speaking Greek. Okay? It says it replaces the city-states' numerous dialects, right? The city-states' numerous dialects, as in all the places that Alexander took over, and their numerous languages, their tongues, so to speak, with an everyday form that people anywhere could understand and quickly become an international language of his day. So the same thing that Babylon was trying to do with Nimrod and make a one-world language so everybody could communicate with each other and come against the Most High, Alexander did it. It was called Koine Greek, right? Most people who came into contact with Hellenistic culture accepted the benefits that it afforded in explaining a network of communication and exchange. Because now you can communicate with everybody. Jews don't have to stay to themselves. Syrians don't have to stay to themselves. Babylonians don't have to stay to themselves. Elamites and Persians and Medes don't have to stay to themselves, because everybody can speak the same language. So now you can trade with everybody. That's how this one world trade system starts, right? The same system we're under today. That's how they would get the ideas for this whole banking system. That's how they would get the ideas for this trade system. That's how they would get the ideas for the forex markets and all that type of stuff, and make it a global current, like a global economy type thing. It all comes from this Hellenistic period, right? Says peoples in Egypt, Judea or Israel, Syria, and Sicily, who all had distinct languages and cultures, could now communicate more easily with one another and enjoy the same dramatic comedies, right? Which is BS, but that's type of stuff they was doing in Hellenistic culture. Let's speak the same language so we could go to the comedy show together and understand what the damn comic is saying. And new forms of art. Oh, let's all speak the same language so we could know and understand what the heck Michelangelo gonna put in the caption of his picture, right? It says in new forms of art and sculpture. Despite pockets of resistance, the Hellenizing movement was remarkably successful in spreading a shared Greek culture throughout the Mediterranean world and into Southwest Asia. So they spread this culture through there with Hellenization, man. That's how it happened. You feel? It was not a difficult thing for them to do. They did it very, very easily. But the people who put up the most resistance is the Israelites, as I've read you out before, right? We put up the most resistance, but we still failed. We weren't hearkening to the Most High, our God. He allowed us to put up a resistance for some years. You know what I'm saying? And we eventually failed. So we gotta get back to our culture. You understand what I'm saying? So at this point, we're gonna close it out with what happens to Esau, because it's not enough to just say, okay, well, all nations are gonna be blessed. These people get to be blessed too, even though they did these horrible atrocities to us. It don't make no sense. So, what did Moses say? What happened to the other nations? Bruh, Facebook getting on my nerves. All right, let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 30 and verse 7. Yeah, Constantine twisted. He twisted it, but Constantine's a tricky story. Constantine was a Jake who was trying to take control by I guess, what's the word I want to say, by like giving into the cultures around him. So he knew what was right and decided to add paganism into the culture of the Bible or the laws of the Bible to make the pagans follow him. So that's why he switched some things up, which later on we would know or come to know would be the false and wrong thing to do. But that's what he did. You feel what I'm saying? He didn't just go out and just change everything like people teach. He was trying to keep rule and end up giving into the cultures of the idol nations and everything. You know what I'm saying? And allow them to worship their pagan gods and stuff through using our Bible, which is how the white man got control of it anyway. But I'll probably do a lesson on that later on. Anyway, Deuteronomy 30 and 7 says, "And Yahweh thy God will put all these curses upon thine enemies and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee." So that's what's going to happen, man, to Esau, right? All these curses, all these things that happen to us, they're going to happen to him. Table's going to be turned. Big league. Let's get Micah chapter 2. We'll start at 1. Micah 2 and 1. Micah 2 and 1. All right. And it shall come to pass, when all these things have come upon thee, the blessing and the curse, which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, whether Yahweh thy God has driven thee. Right? We're going to read to verse 5. And shalt return unto Yahweh thy God, and shalt obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children, with all thy heart and with all thy soul, that then Yahweh thy God will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee. So once we turn back from our wicked ways, man, and repent, he's going to turn our captivity, man. Once that 130 to 144,000 is sealed. And I will return and gather thee from all the nations, right? He's going to gather us from all the nations, as it says in Isaiah 11, whether the Lord thy God have scattered thee, right? If any of, and Isaiah 56, if any of thine be driven out unto the outermost parts of heaven, from thence, damn, Salaki. If any of thine be driven out to the outermost parts of heaven, from thence will Yahweh thy God gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee. Verse 5, and Yahweh thy God, thy power, will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possessed, right? He will bring us into the land. Not the government will bring us into the land. Not the Balfour Declaration of 1945 to 1948 will bring us into the land. But the Most High, Yahweh, our power, will bring us into the land which our fathers possessed, and thou shalt possess it, right? We're going to possess it because he's going to bring us into that land. That's how you know who the real Jews are. And he will do thee good and multiply thee above thy fathers. You understand what I'm saying? Let's get Habakkuk 2. That's going to happen to us. So what's going to happen to them, though? Let's get Habakkuk 2 and 2. We're going to run through these precepts and close it on out one time. Let's end it on what's going to happen to the crackers. Habakkuk chapter 2 verse 2. And Yahweh answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain upon the tables, that he might run and read it. Right? The Water Lion King for the donation. Yeah, kind. So yeah, verse 3. For the vision is yet for the appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come and it will not tarry. So what vision we about to read? Don't think it's not gonna happen. Just wait for it and watch and see how it unfolds. It's actually unfolding right now before your eyes. Behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith. So we know Esau, the so-called cracker, the so-called white man, the devil that the Bible speaks of, so-called fake Jew, and all the other stuff that he's so-called, is his soul is not upright in him, right? Verse 5. Yeah, also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire is hell, right? Because they never have enough. They always just their desire is as big as hell. You understand? It never ends. And is as death and cannot be satisfied, because they're like a bottomless pit, but gathereth unto him all nations and heapeth unto him all people. That's what Alexander did, right? They're still doing it unto this day. So we got to keep that in mind. This is definitely Esau that we're talking about, the so-called cracker, the so-called white man, the oppressor that the Bible speaks of, who is the devil, right? Verse 6, shall not all these take up a parable against him and a taunting proverb against him and say, woe or destruction to him that increases that which is not his? How long, right? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay, because what they do is they take over everything that don't belong to them. They take all these lands and stuff, and then they try to cover it up, kind of like they're doing now with the slave trade, right? They're trying to teach our children and stuff that the slave trade never happened, that we were indentured servitude, where we were indentured slaves and stuff, and all the bad atrocities that we teach about never happened and stuff like that. So they're trying to cover it up. They're trying to lay it themselves with thick clay, make it seem like none of the bad stuff they did ever happened, right? But they can't do that. The Most High is not going to let them get away. It says verse 7, shall they not rise up suddenly that shall bite thee and awake thee? And awake that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be for booties upon them, right? We're going to walk upon them like the shoes on our feet, like them little rain boots y'all be wearing. Verse 8, because thou hast spoiled many nations, right? That's why the people hate him. They began to hate the great whore. The great whore is who? America. Who's running America? Esau. Everybody hates him, right? All the remnant of the people shall spoil thee, because of men's blood, and for the violence of the land, of the city, and all that dwell therein. Verse 9. Woe unto him that covereth an evil covetousness to his house, right? That's what they did. They just covet evil, or covet evil. Covet evil. Slaki. All they want is to covet evil. All they want is to just take whatever evil they can, spread whatever evil throughout the earth, and just make everything evil and wicked. Because that's what they do, right? That he may set his nest on high. You understand? Like them Caucasus Mountains, like Petra Rockmu, like them high rises all over in all the cities in America and all the other big cities around the earth that they live in, right? They set their nest on high, like they did when they went to the moon. That he may be delivered from the power of evil, right? That they'll consult his shame to thy house by cutting off many, and has sinned against thy soul. They cut off many people, man, and he's consulted shame to his house. They don't even realize it though, because of how prideful they are. So they've sinned against their soul. We have to show them how they did that, right? Verse 11. For the stone shall cry out of the wall, and the beam out of the timber shall answer it. Woe unto him that buildeth a town with blood, and establish a city by iniquity, right? They're gonna be destroyed, man, because that's how they built this city. Y'all can read the rest of Habakkuk, but because of time, we're gonna jump to Ezekiel chapter 25. That's a good parable in Habakkuk. For you milk learners, I suggest y'all read that and this and the one that we're gonna get right after this. Let's go to Ezekiel 25. 14. 14. This is Ezekiel 25 and 14. Actually, let's start at 12. Thus say Yahweh God, because that Edom had dealt against the house of Judah by taking vengeance and had greatly offended and revenged himself upon them, right? So enough with all that Deuteronomy 23 mess. This is what the Bible's saying right now, right? It says, thus say the Lord God, because Edom hath dwelt against the house of Judah, not thou shalt not abhor an Edomite. It says, because Edom have dwelt against the house of Judah by taking vengeance and have greatly offended, right? And have revenged himself against them or upon them, right? Therefore, thus say the Lord God, I will also stretch out my hand upon Edom. So the Most High is not saying don't abhor Edomite. He said he gonna stretch out his hand upon Edom and will cut off man and beast from it. Ain't gonna be a dude that's alive in Edom. Ain't gonna be one of them hairy lipped women from Edom. Ain't gonna be none of them ugly golden retrievers that they like. None of that, right? They are gonna be done. He's gonna cut them all off. And I will make it desolate from Teman, and they of Dedan shall fall by the sword. For those of you that don't know, Teman and Dedan are Edomite nations, right? Verse 14. And I will lay my vengeance upon Edom by the hand of my people Israel. And they shall do in Edom according to mine anger and according to mine fury, and they shall know my vengeance, saith Yahweh Allah. Right? That's what we doing here. That's what this is about. You understand me? that's what the gospel is. That's part of the gospel right here. This is part of the good news, man. The Most High is going to destroy Esau by the hand of his people Edom. That's great news to me. I love that. Let's get Obadiah, right? The book that condemns him. Oh boy, they gonna die, right? Obadiah. Let's get Obadiah chapter 1. Well, there's only one chapter. Do I want to read that? I guess we'll start here. Let's just read it. Verse 1. The vision of Obadiah, thus saith the Lord concerning Edom, right? We have heard a rumor from Yahweh, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen, right? Who's the ambassador of the heathen? Esau, the Edomites. Arise ye and let us rise up against her in battle, because it's almost that time for us to rise up against her in battle, so that the house of Edom will be destroyed by the hand of his people Israel, right? Verse 2. Behold, I have made thee small amongst the heathen. Thou art greatly despised. They're small in number, and they're small in the way that the other nations like them, right? And the way that the other nations feel about them. Other people hate Edomites, right? Only people that like Edomites are the Edomites, and all Edomites don't like Edomites. We know this because they've put they've put their own people in slavery and stuff like that, right? So they're despised by everybody, including each other. The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, right? And as we mentioned earlier, they're very prideful people, as if nobody could bring them down, but they've been deceived, right? Thou that dwellest in the cliffs of the rock, whose habitation is high. Didn't we just say that they had their habitation in Habakkuk, right? They that dwell in the cliffs of the rock. Earlier we brought out Job 30, right? Them people, I showed you guys Petra Rock Move. I showed you guys the Caucasus Mountains. We know who the Caucasus Mountains people are, the Caucasians, the cave dwellers. So who else could this be talking about, man? Right? They that dwell in the cliff of the rock, whose habitation is on high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? That's what they say, right? Who shall bring them down? Well, Most High said he's going to throw down. Ain't that what he said in Malachi that we read earlier? Verse 4. Thou that exalt thyself as an eagle, and thou that set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring them down, saith Yahweh. He going to bring them down. It's a wrap for Esau, right? Verse 5. If these came to thee, if robbers by night, how art thou cut off, right? Because that's all they is, thieves and robbers. All they do is steal, and steal some more. Would they not have stolen till they had enough? Most robbers just steal till they got enough to go distribute amongst they people, or sell for themselves for their own spoil, and they good. They have enough of it. But if grape gatherers came unto thee, would they have not leave some grapes, right? The grape gatherers might come and grab whatever they need to get for their wine or whatever they making, but they'll still leave you a little something on the vine. You feel? Esau don't do that. How are the things of Esau searched out? They're searched out by him just taking, and taking some more, right? And not giving a damn about who he hurts in the process. How are his things sought up? By stealing, robbing, murdering, pillaging, right? All the things you're not supposed to do to obtain something on this face of the earth. Verse 7. All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border, right? The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee, because nobody's really at peace with Esau, right? And prevailed against thee, that they eat thy bread, have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. Verse 8. Yeah. Shall I not in that day, saith Yahweh, even destroy the wise men out of Edom and understanding out of the mount of Esau? So even your Bill Gates ain't gonna have nothing he can do in this time, man. It's a wrap. You feel? That's right. Most High's program is not going to be defeated. Says, and thy mighty men, O Timon, shall be dismayed to the end that every one of the mount of Esau may be cut off by slaughter. That's why we say to you guys all the time that Esau is not going to be, around at some point. It's going to be a dub for them, right? All the other heathen nations get to be around here. All the other heathen nations get to serve Yahweh while Yahweh Shai through us. But at some point, Esau is going to be cut off by slaughter, man. You understand? It's a dub for them. For the why? For the violence against our brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee. Not Jacob went through violence, but you're not supposed to abhor Edomite. Jacob went through slavery, but you're not supposed to abhor Edomite. He says, for the violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover the Edomites, right? And they shall be cut off forever. It's plain and simple, man. Verse 11. In the day thou stoodest on the other side, in the day that the strangers carried away captive his forces, and the foreigners entered into his gates and cast lots upon Jerusalem, even thou was as one of them, right? Because Esau had plenty of times when he could have stopped Babylonians and Assyrians from hurting us and stuff like that, because he was around, he was in a close proximity, but he decided not to do it. There were times in the book of Judith you can read where he actually started the crafty council with these people and created the tumult and actually banded with them together to try to take us down when he wasn't in control at the time. You feel? So that's why it says, and he was as one of them, because he literally was as one. You feel? He was there. So, but thou shouldest not have looked on the day of thy brother in the day that he became a stranger, right? In the day that Judah became a stranger. How did Judah and Israel become a stranger? Because they fell away from the covenant. They became aliens and strangers to the covenant because they lost their heritage. Why? Because they went through Hellenization. Why? Because of Esau. Okay. So, neither shouldest thou have rejoiced over the children of Judah in the day of their destruction, neither should have thou spoken proudly in the day of his distress. Right? That's what they did. How did they look proudly and rejoice upon the day of our destruction? They seen that we was in a civil war in 68 AD and decided to go down and fight us and destroy our temple in the midst of it. That's what they did. They looked upon us and seen a chance for them to take advantage, and that's what they did. So the Most High is going to punish them for that. It says, thou shouldest not have entered into the gate of my people in the day of their calamity. That's what he did, right? Esau went into the gates of our land, right? Destroyed basically every damn city that we had, and then destroyed our temple. And then killed and raped and robbed and pillaged our people. And the ones that were left, he sold into slavery. So he looked, he should not have looked on our day of affliction, in our day of calamity, nor have laid hands on their substance in the day of their calamity. Neither should he have stood in the crossway to cut off those of his that did escape, right? Because that's what they did. We had people that escaped and was able to flee to the mountains and the wilderness and stuff, but they were chased down and slaughtered, right? People that were able to flee to other cities and everything, they were chased down and they were slaughtered. That's what he did. So neither shouldest thou have delivered up those of his that did remain in the day of distress. For the day of Yahweh is near upon all the heathen that thou hast done. It shall be done unto thee. Thy reward shall return upon thine own head. For as ye have drunk upon my holy mountain, so shall all the heathen drink continually. Yea, they shall drink, and they shall swallow down, and they shall be as though they have not been. So that's the Most High. How we're telling you what's going to happen to other nations, man, how he's going to treat them, how he's going to do these people, right? Verse 16. For as he, 17. But upon Mount Zion shall be deliverance, and there shall be holiness, right? Mount Zion is going to be delivered, and we're going to be set apart again above all people upon the face of the earth. And the house of Judah shall possess their possessions, because Judah is the head tribe. That's where Yahweh Shai is going to be at. He's going to be the king of the world, right? 18. And the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph shall be a flame, right? That's Esau and Jacob back together again. What's going to happen to Esau, right? The house of Esau shall be stubble. We're going to take them out. That's that destruction. And it shall kindle in them and devour them. And there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for Yahweh has spoken. So that's how Esau is going to be destroyed. That's how they're going to be cut off forever, man. You understand what I'm saying? And they of the south shall possess the mount of Esau, and they of the plain of the Philistines, and they shall possess the fields of Ephraim, and the fields of Samaria, and Benjamin shall possess Gilead. And the captivity of the host of the children of Israel shall possess that of the Canaanites, even unto Zapharth, and the captivity of Jerusalem, which is in Sepharad, shall possess the cities of the south. And Savior shall come up to the Mount Zion to judge the Mount of Esau, and the kingdom shall be Yahweh's. You understand? So that's what's gonna happen to Esau in that day, man. Like, I don't know what else to say. Y'all know Isaiah 14 and 2, Isaiah 14, 1 and 2. Y'all know Revelations 13 and 9. Man, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. This is the faith and patience of the saints. So, this was the Edomite captivity of 70 AD. Just a little history for y'all on that. Hopefully y'all enjoyed it. Like I said, also there's another video y'all can watch from that same channel. What's it called? This was called The Siege of Jerusalem, 70 AD. It's by, not to give Esau no credit, but it's a Kings in General channel, right? You can go in there. They also have the 73 AD Battle of Masada, if y'all wanted to learn about that. Since I didn't talk about it too much, just to give y'all a little bit of history for that. So, yeah. Next time we're going to talk about, we're going to put Ham's captivity of us together with Ishmael and Elon. So we're going to talk about the other 3 captivities in the next video. And I believe the video after that, I'm probably going to talk about the Boule. And then after that, I'm going to get into the 12 tribes chart. So, yeah. Do anybody have any questions pertaining to the lesson before I hop off of here? Any questions pertaining to the lesson? First. Oh, yeah, on the bar. All right, so no questions? Y'all good? Alrighty. So yeah, like I said, I hope y'all enjoyed it, man. The water for the donations again, for all the people that donated. Moab, we're gonna talk about Moab in the midst of the other captivities because they were involved in other ones. So it's like I told y'all before. Each of the 18 nations didn't have us particularly in their own captivity. Moab did. They were involved in the Silk Road and the slave trade that went with that. You know what I'm saying? That was Moab and Ammon right there. But yeah, we'll talk about all the other nations though. I'll make sure we explain how they had their hand in this. Because as the scripture said, right, there's no nation that didn't have a part in our spoils. So you want Obadiah 1 and 1 again? Hold up. All right. It says the vision of Obadiah, thus saith the Lord God concerning Edom. So it's Obadiah having a vision concerning Edom from the Most High God. We have heard a rumor from Yahweh, and an ambassador sent among the heathen. So this is saying that Yahweh sent an ambassador. He sent somebody that was going to be the head heathen. He sent the head heathen out there, right? Arise ye and let's rise up against her in battle. Who's that person that we have to rise up against? It's Esau, the Edomites. That's why it's concerning Edom. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, did you just want the first verse, or you hop like, you know what I'm saying? She's on a journey to serve. Did you just want 1 and 1? Did you want more than that? So, I mean, 1 and 1 is kind of simple. It's just basically telling you that it's going to be this whole chapter, this whole book is going to be a vision concerning Edom, who is the ambassador that the Most High sent amongst the heathen. You understand? Yeah, that's all it is. It's just showing you that they had heathen in charge. That's all. Which is a precept of Job, 9:24. The earth was given to the hand of the wicked. Saw the same people. Proverbs 16:4. The wicked are made for the day of evil. That's what they're here for us to come against them in battle, so that the Most High Yahweh can lay his vengeance on Esau by the hand of his people Israel. Right? Saw the same thing. Psalm 17:13. Op wants me to get. Did I bring that out earlier? Nah, I brought it up. I forgot to put this on the paper. That's the spirit. Psalm 17:13. Yeah, because I didn't. All right, Psalm 17:13. Arise, O Yahweh, disappoint him, cast him down, deliver my soul from the wicked, which is thy sword. Right? Why is it saying that they are a sword? Because who did he use to take down us during this captivity? Right? He used Esau to do it. So Esau was his sword for the Israelites. He's still the sword for the Israelites. Because who's the one doing? Who's the main person that's giving us the Zechariah 11:5? Right? That's Esau as the sword of the Most High. So that's Psalm 17:13. Just to read 14 to give you the full. From men which are thy hand, O Lord, from men of the world, which have their portion in this life, which is the Edomites, because this is their kingdom, whose belly thou filleth with thy hid treasure. They are full of children and leave the rest of their substance to their babes, right? That's what they do. They're able to pass down this stuff from generation to generation on their Bill Gates mess, right? Because they still rob and murder and just take, so that they have enough to pass down to other generations. As for me, I will behold thy face in righteousness, because that's what we're supposed to be about, the law, statutes, and commandments. And I shall be satisfied when I awake with thy likeness. That's in our glory as the hopeful elect. You know what I'm saying? That get to lay our vengeance upon Edom. So, yeah, good precept. All right. Anybody else got a question before I close this thing down? There it is. Nope. Alrighty then. We're gonna go ahead and shut it down. So like I said, this was the Milk Monday lesson. For who has blessed the Israelites, right? This was the first segment. Part 2 is gonna be next Monday. We're gonna talk about how the Hamites, the Elamites, Ishmaelites, Moab, and Ammon, and the other nations that would be simultaneously involved in those captivities as well, also did not bless the Israelites, therefore cannot be blessed. Therefore, Genesis 12 and what? Genesis, was it 22? What is? I don't want to quote that wrong. Yeah, Genesis 12:3 and Genesis 22:18 do not fit those other nations, those heathen nations in the world, because none of them blessed the Israelites. They all actually cursed the Israelites and had parts in taking our spoils. So, like I said, I hope y'all like the lesson, man. Y'all hit the like button, Yodi. Hit the like button so Israel can see this. Because YouTube's going to do it dirty. It's going to make sure that the notifications don't go out and all that type of stuff. They always do. So y'all be safe. Enjoy your Passover. Sharp a sock to the brethren, you know what I'm saying, the Akim or Aquatim that's out there celebrating it right now. Those of y'all that didn't celebrate it, y'all going off because we're supposed to be here rehearsing righteous acts. But I'm going to leave that there. So I'm Brother Ayah from the Sons of the Israelites. It is our prayer, hope, desire to the Most High God that all Israel be saved. Shalom.